The range fell silent as the woman picked up the rifle. She did not ask permission, did not introduce herself, just loaded a magazine with movements so practiced they seemed automatic. The SEALs watched with expressions ranging from amusement to irritation. Another civilian who thought watching YouTube videos made them an operator. What none of them knew, what none of them could have guessed, was that the woman now settling into a shooting position had more confirmed kills than anyone on this range. And the last time she had fired a weapon in anger, it had been to save the life of the man, now standing 10 feet away, smirking at her form. The morning sun hung low over Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, casting long shadows across the rifle range where SEAL Team 3 conducted their weekly marksmanship training. Lieutenant Marcus Grayson stood with his arms crossed, watching his platoon work through their drills with the critical eye of a man who had earned his trident through blood and persistence. 6 years in the teams had taught him to recognize excellence, and more importantly, to spot pretenders from 1,000 yards, which was why the woman currently walking onto his range caught his attention immediately. She moved wrong. Not clumsy exactly. The opposite, actually. Too smooth. Too economical. Her steps covered ground efficiently without the usual civilian shuffle or hurried pace. She wore simple clothes, jeans, and a long-sleeved shirt despite the California heat. Dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Nothing remarkable about her appearance except for the way she scanned the range with eyes that seemed to catalog every detail, every position, every potential threat. Grayson stepped forward, intercepting her path. "Ma'am, this is a restricted area. You need to turn around and head back to the visitor center." The woman stopped, met his eyes without flinching. Her voice came out quiet, almost soft. "I know it is restricted. I am looking for the range officer." This caught Grayson off guard. Civilians usually apologized, made excuses, backed away from his tone. This one just stood there, waiting. He noticed her posture now, weight distributed evenly, hands relaxed at her sides, but somehow ready. A faint scar ran down her left forearm, partially visible below her sleeve. "I am the ranking officer here today, Lieutenant Marcus Grayson. And you are?" "Alexis Vargas. I called ahead yesterday. Someone said I could come by and use the long-range targets for a few hours." Grayson's jaw tightened. Nobody had mentioned anything to him about a civilian reservation. He glanced back at his team, several of whom had stopped shooting to watch the exchange. Great. Now he looked uninformed in front of his man. "I do not have any record of that, Miss Vargas. These facilities are for military personnel only. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you have witnessed similar acts of courage where you are from." The woman nodded slowly, as if she had expected this response. "That is fine. I understand. I will head out." She started to turn away, and Grayson felt an odd twinge. Something about her struck him as familiar, though he could not place it. The way she carried herself, the quiet acceptance of disappointment. Senior Chief Nathan Booker approached from the firing line, rifle slung over his shoulder. "Everything all right, sir? Just a civilian looking for range time. I am handling it." Booker looked at the woman with frank curiosity. "You shoot, ma'am?" "Some," Vargas replied. "What kind of some?" Booker had 20 years in the teams and a nose for talent that Grayson reluctantly respected. Vargas shrugged slightly. "Rifle mostly. Some pistol." Grayson felt his irritation growing. They were wasting training time on polite conversation. "Look, if you want to shoot, there are civilian ranges all over San Diego. This facility is for special operations personnel who need to maintain combat readiness. We do not run a public shooting gallery." "I understand, Lieutenant." The woman's tone remained even, unbothered by his dismissiveness. "My apologies for the confusion." She turned again to leave, and this time it was Petty Officer Ramirez who spoke up from behind them. "Ma'am, what is your background? If you do not mind my asking." Vargas paused, seemed to consider the question. "Army. A while ago." Grayson's eyebrows rose. "How long ago?" 8 years since I got out. I live in town now. Have a daughter." "What was your MLS?" Booker asked, using the Army term for military occupational specialty. "Various things. Training rotations mostly." The vagueness annoyed Grayson. If she had actually served, she would just say her job. The evasiveness marked her as either lying or exaggerating her experience. He made a split-second decision, the kind that later he would wish he could take back. Tell you what, Miss Vargas, since you came all this way, why don't you take a few shots? Show us what the army taught you. We could use a laugh this morning. Several of his SEALs chuckled. Ramirez looked uncomfortable, but did not object. Booker's expression went carefully neutral, which usually meant he disagreed, but would not contradict his officer in front of the team. Vargas studied Grayson for a long moment. Her dark eyes revealed nothing. That is kind of you, but I do not want to waste your training time. No waste at all. Consider it educational. My men can always learn from watching different shooting styles, even if they are not particularly effective ones. The insult hung in the air. Grayson knew he was being an ass, but something about this woman set his teeth on edge. The quiet confidence, the way she did not react to his condescension, like she knew something he did not. If you insist, she said finally. Booker handed her his rifle, a tricked-out M4 with precision optics. She took it with familiar hands, checked the chamber automatically, examined the scope settings. Her movements were smooth, practiced, completely unconscious. Muscle memory from hours of repetition. Grayson watched her settle into a prone position on the firing line. Her form was textbook perfect. Elbows positioned correctly. Body alignment straight behind the rifle. Breathing already controlled and steady. This was not beginner luck or weekend warrior training. This was someone who had spent serious time behind a weapon. 300-meter target, Grayson called out. Center mass. Take your time. Vargas made a tiny adjustment to the scope, settled her cheek against the stock, and fired 3 rounds in quick succession. The spacing between shots was mechanical, identical. Crack, crack, crack. Booker pulled out his spotting scope, trained it downrange on the target. He went still for a moment, then looked at Grayson. Sir, you need to see this. Grayson took the scope, focused on the 300-meter silhouette target. All 3 rounds had punched through the exact center of the chest, creating a cluster no larger than a quarter. At 300 meters, with an unfamiliar rifle, on her first attempt, the range went completely quiet. Vargas stood up, safed the weapon, and handed it back to Booker with a polite nod. Thank you for letting me shoot. That was kind. Grayson's mind raced. That kind of grouping was competition-level accuracy. Better than half his team could manage. He looked at the woman again, really looked this time, and saw something in her eyes that made his stomach tighten. Recognition, maybe, or was it warning? Senior Chief Booker stepped closer to Vargas, his voice low. Ma'am, I apologize, but I have to ask. Where exactly did you serve? Various places, she said again. Mostly overseas rotations. Booker nodded slowly, but Grayson could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. The senior chief had seen something in that shooting display that went beyond mere skill. As Vargas walked toward the range exit, Booker moved beside Grayson and spoke quietly. Sir, that stance, the breathing pattern, the triggered discipline, that is not regular army training. Grayson bristled. What are you saying? I am saying, Booker replied carefully, that I have seen that exact shooting form exactly once before, in a classified briefing about special operations snipers. And whoever just shot your rifle did not learn that technique at basic rifle marksmanship. Grayson stared at the target downrange, then back at the woman now 50 meters away, walking with that same efficient stride toward the parking area. His pride warred with his curiosity. Nobody shot like that by accident. Nobody grouped 3 rounds that tight at 300 meters without serious training and even more serious practice. Wait, he called out. Vargas stopped, turned slowly. Yes, Lieutenant. He closed the distance between them, aware that his entire platoon was watching this exchange. Booker followed a few steps behind, silent but present. Grayson kept his voice level, professional. That was impressive shooting. I would like to see what else you can do. Something flickered in her eyes. Amusement, maybe, or pity. That really is not necessary. You have training to conduct. Consider it part of our training. My men can always benefit from observing different skill levels. He paused deliberately, even exceptional ones. The shift in his tone was obvious. He had moved from mockery to something closer to respect, though he hated giving ground. But facts were facts, and that shooting performance demanded acknowledgement. What did you have in mind? Vargas asked. Grayson gestured back toward the range. We have targets set up from 300 to 800 meters. Progressive difficulty. Moving targets at 600. Why do not you show us what the Army Special Operations community teaches these days? He watched for a reaction to the specific phrasing. Special Operations. If she was just a regular soldier playing pretend, that would rattle her. But Vargas simply nodded and walked back to the firing line. Ramirez stepped forward, eager now. Ma'am, would you like to try my rifle? It is zeroed for longer ranges. She accepted the weapon, another M4, but with a different optic setup and heavier barrel. Again, that automatic chamber check, the practiced examination of the equipment. She adjusted the scope, worked the bolt to feel the action, tested the trigger pull weight. Every movement spoke of deep familiarity. 400 meters, Grayson announced. Center mass, 5 rounds. Vargas dropped into position. This time Grayson watched her technique closely. The way she built her natural point of aim, the tiny adjustments to bone support rather than muscle tension, the controlled breathing cycle. Booker was right. This was not basic marksmanship. This was advanced precision shooting taught in very specific schools. The rifle cracked 5 times, each shot separated by identical intervals. Downrange, the 400-meter target collected all 5 rounds in a group that could be covered by a playing card. 600, Grayson said, his voice tight. Moving target, left to right traverse. He expected hesitation now. Moving targets at 600 meters required serious skill and quick math. Windage, velocity, lead time. Most of his SEALs could make the shot, but not on the first try. Vargas tracked the moving silhouette with her rifle, breathing steady. She led the target by what looked like pure instinct and fired. The target jerked as the round impacted center mass. She fired again as it reversed direction. Another hit. 3 more shots, 3 more impacts, all within the kill zone. Booker let out a low whistle. Holy hell. The other SEALs had abandoned their own shooting now, gathering to watch. Grayson felt control of the situation slipping away. This woman, this quiet civilian in jeans and a long-sleeve shirt, was outperforming his entire team. The implications gnawed at him. Where did you train? He demanded. What unit? Vargas stood, safed the rifle, handed it back to Ramirez with a quiet thank you. Different places over the years. I moved around quite a bit. The evasion infuriated him. That level of shooting came from somewhere specific. Advanced marksmanship schools. Sniper course. The kind of training that went on records and in personnel files. Unless those records were classified. Booker moved closer to Vargas, his weathered face thoughtful. Ma'am, I need to ask you something directly. Did you go through Fort Benning? She met his eyes. Among other places. The Special Operations Target Interdiction Course? Her silence was answer enough. Grayson's chest tightened. SOTIC was the Army's advanced sniper school, where they trained special operations snipers for Delta Force, Rangers, and Special Forces. Women had only recently been allowed into those courses, and the washout rate was brutal. If she had graduated from SOTIC, she was not just skilled. She was elite. What did you go through? Booker pressed gently. About 9 years ago, Vargas said. Things were different then. Quieter. 9 years ago. Before the military officially opened combat roles to women. Which meant she had been part of something unusual, something that skirted regulations or operated under special exception. Grayson's mind raced through possibilities, none of them matching his assumptions about the woman standing before him. Ramirez spoke up, his young face earnest. Ma'am, do you have family here? You said you have a daughter? Vargas's expression softened slightly. Yes, Emma. She is 8. Loves the beach, loves reading, wants to be a marine biologist. The maternal warmth in her voice contrasted sharply with the cold precision she had just demonstrated. Grayson tried to reconcile the two images, doting mother and elite sniper. It did not compute in his mental framework. Does she know what you did? Ramirez asked. Vargas shook her head. She knows I served. that I was in the army, but not the details. I want her to have a childhood without that darkness. The raw honesty in those words hit harder than Grayson expected. This was not some glory-seeking veteran trying to relive past achievements. This was someone who had deliberately walked away from that world and was trying to build something different. Tom Hendricks, the range safety officer, had been standing back during the entire exchange. He was a retired Marine gunnery sergeant who had served in Iraq and Afghanistan before taking the civilian position at Coronado. Now he stepped forward, his face pale, staring at Vargas like he had seen a ghost. "Alexis Vargas," he said slowly. "Jesus Christ, you are the ghost." The effect was instantaneous. Vargas went perfectly still, her entire body language shifting from relaxed to alert. Booker's head snapped toward Hendricks. Grayson felt the sudden tension crackling through the air like electricity before a lightning strike. "Tom," Vargas said quietly, "it has been a long time." Hendricks laughed, but it came out shaky. "A long time? Damn right it has been a long time. Last time I saw you, you were pulling Overwatch in Ramadi, making impossible shots while the rest of us mortals did our best not to get killed." Grayson stepped forward. "What are you talking about?" Hendricks turned to him, and Grayson was startled to see something like awe in the older Marine's eyes. "Sir, do you know who this is? Do you have any idea who you just let shoot on your range?" "Obviously not," Grayson said through clenched teeth. "This is Alexis Vargas. Call sign Ghost. She served with the Special Operations Task Force in Iraq and Afghanistan from 2014 to 2017. I was attached to a Marine unit that she provided sniper support for in Ramadi." Hendricks looked back at Vargas. "How many confirmed kills did you end up with?" "Last I heard it was somewhere over 80. Vargas closed her eyes briefly. "Tom, please. That is not something I talk about anymore." But Hendricks was on a roll now, the memories flooding back. "You saved my ass more times than I can count. There was that day on Route Michigan when we got ambushed. 6 insurgents on a rooftop for 100 meters out, firing down on our convoy. You dropped all 6 in under 30 seconds. I watched it through Binos. I have never seen anything like it before or since." Booker moved closer to Grayson, speaking low. "Sir, if what Hendricks is saying is true, we just mocked one of the most lethal snipers in recent military history." Grayson's world tilted. The Ghost of Ramadi was not just a call sign. It was a legend whispered about in special operations circles. An unknown sniper, gender unclear in most accounts, who had racked up an impossible number of kills and saved countless American lives before disappearing from the battlefield. There were rumors, conflicting stories, debates about whether it was one person or several operators using the same call sign. And now that Ghost was standing on his range, looking uncomfortable and trapped. "Ma'am," Grayson started, but Vargas cut him off with a raised hand. "Lieutenant, I appreciate the opportunity to shoot, but I need to leave now. My daughter will be getting out of school soon, and I promised to pick her up." She started walking toward the exit again, faster this time. Hendricks called after her. "Alexis, wait. I am sorry. I should not have said anything." She did not turn around. "It is fine, Tom. But you understand why I do not advertise my past." Grayson stood frozen, watching her go. His mind spun through the last hour, reframing every moment through this new information. The quiet competence, the evasiveness about her background, the shooting that was too perfect, too practiced, too deadly. He had mocked a woman who had more combat experience than most of his team combined, had dismissed her as a civilian pretender when she was actually a decorated special operations veteran. The shame burned in his chest, competing with disbelief and a growing sense that he had just made a catastrophic error in judgment. Booker stood beside him, watching Vargas disappear into the parking lot. "Sir, what do you want to do?" Grayson had no answer. His assumptions, his prejudices, his confident superiority had all just been shattered by 5'6" of quiet lethality disguised as a soccer mom. "Find out everything you can about her," he finally said. "Service record, deployments, the works. I want to know who she really is." "And sir?" Booker's tone was carefully neutral. "Maybe consider that we just treated a genuine American hero like she was an annoyance." The rebuke landed like a punch. Grayson watched the space where Vargas had been, and for the first time in years, felt genuinely ashamed of himself. Grayson sat in the team room 3 hours later, staring at a computer screen that refused to give him what he wanted. The military personnel database showed Alexis Vargas, service dates matching what she had said, honorable discharge in 2017. But her actual assignments were redacted. Black bars covered unit designations, deployment locations, specialty training. The kind of redactions that meant classified operations. Booker walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee, set one in front of Grayson without comment. The senior chief pulled up a chair, his own tablet showing similar search results. I talked to some people I know at JSOC, Booker said quietly. Joint Special Operations Command kept records that went deeper than standard databases. Nobody wants to talk about her on the record. But off the record, I heard some things. Grayson looked up. What kind of things? The kind that make me wish I had kept my mouth shut this morning instead of letting you challenge her. Booker sipped his coffee. She was attached to a task force that does not officially exist. Hunter-killer teams tracking high-value targets in urban environments. They needed snipers who could blend in, who would not draw attention. Someone who could disappear. Hence the call sign. Booker confirmed. And here's the part that should make you feel like garbage, sir. She was one of the first women ever cleared for that kind of direct action role. Had to fight twice as hard to earn her spot, prove herself 3 times over. And from what I am hearing, she became one of the most effective operators in the entire program. Grayson rubbed his face. How many kills? Booker shook his head. That number is classified. But the Ghost of Ramadi is not just a cool nickname. She earned it by basically haunting insurgent networks. They knew someone was out there killing their leadership, but they could never find her. Called her a jinn, an evil spirit. The irony was not lost on Grayson. He had treated her like she did not belong, like women could not hack it in combat roles. And she had spent years proving the opposite in the most lethal way possible. Does she have a record for longest confirmed kill? Grayson asked. Booker's expression grew somber. That is where it gets interesting. There is an unconfirmed report of a shot made in 2016 in Ramadi. Distance was supposedly over 2,800 meters, but it was never officially verified because the operation was classified and the target was never publicly acknowledged. 2,800 meters. Grayson did the math. Over 1.5 miles. That was borderline impossible. The current record was held by a Canadian sniper at 3,500 meters, but that shot had taken multiple attempts in perfect conditions. A combat shot at over 2,800 first-round hit would be legendary. You think she made that shot? He asked. I think Booker said carefully that Tom Hendricks served in Ramadi in 2016. And I think the way he looked at her this morning was the way you look at someone who saved your life. Grayson stood abruptly, paced the small room. This cannot be happening. He had built his entire identity around being an elite warrior, part of the most skilled fighting force in American military history. And he had just condescended to someone who might actually be better than him. The door opened, and Ramirez stuck his head in. Sir, you need to see this. What is it? She is back. And Lieutenant, she is asking for you specifically. Grayson and Booker exchanged glances, then headed outside. The afternoon sun was lower now, casting golden light across the base. Vargas stood by the range entrance, and beside her was a young girl with dark hair and pigtails, wearing a backpack covered in dolphin stickers. Lieutenant Grayson, Vargas called out as they approached. I owe you an apology. That brought Grayson up short. You owe me an apology? Yes. I should not have been evasive about my background. That was not fair to you or your team. Vargas rested a hand on her daughter's shoulder. This is Emma. Emma, this is Lieutenant Grayson and Senior Chief Booker. They are Navy SEALs. The girl's eyes went wide. Like the guys who got the bad guy. Something like that, Booker said with a warm smile. Nice to meet you, Emma. Grayson struggled to find his voice. Miss Vargas, you do not owe me any apology. I was the one who was disrespectful. You were protecting your team and your training time. I understand that. Vargas's tone remained even, but there was something in her eyes now. A weariness. Emma knows I was in the Army. She knows I served overseas. But I've tried to keep the details from her. She does not need to know about that part of my life. Mommy was a hero, Emma announced proudly. She has medals at home, but she keeps them in a drawer and never talks about them. Vargas's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Emma, why don't you go see if that nice petty officer Ramirez will show you on the boats? I need to talk to these gentlemen for a few minutes. Can I? Please? Emma bounced on her toes. Stay where I can see you, Vargas said, and do not touch anything without asking. Emma darted toward Ramirez, who caught Booker's nod and led the girl toward a RHIB boat parked nearby. Once she was out of earshot, Vargas turned back to Grayson. I came back because Tom Hendricks called me. Said he felt terrible about bringing up my past. But the truth is, he did me a favor. Vargas folded her arms. I have been trying to pretend that part of my life never happened. Trying to be normal, to give Emma a normal childhood. But it did happen, and maybe it is time I stopped running from it. You have nothing to prove, Grayson said. Especially not to me. Actually, I do. You challenged me this morning, Lieutenant. Asked me to show what I could do. But I held back. Vargas met his eyes directly. I shot well enough to make you curious, but not well enough to show you what I am actually capable of. That was dishonest. Grayson felt a chill run down his spine. You held back? A slight smile touched her lips, but it did not reach her eyes. You have targets out to 800 meters, correct? We do. Set one up at 1,000. Moving if you can manage it. And give me a rifle I have never fired before. No zeroing shots. No warm-up rounds. Then I will show you what the Army taught me. Booker let out a low breath. Ma'am, 1,000 meters with an unfamiliar rifle, no zero confirmation. That is asking for failure. I know, Vargas said simply, but I will not fail. The absolute certainty in her voice made Grayson believe her. This was not arrogance. This was a statement of fact from someone who knew exactly what she was capable of. Why now? He asked. Why are you doing this? Because Emma saw how you looked at me this morning. She is smart. She picks up on things. And on the drive to school, she asked me if the Navy men were mean to me because I am a girl. Vargas's voice remained steady, but something fierce flickered in her expression. I told her no, that they were just surprised. But I did not want my daughter growing up thinking that being female means being less than. So I'm going to make a shot that most of your team could not make. And I'm going to do it so there is no question in anyone's mind about what women are capable of. Booker spoke up. Ma'am, you do not need to prove anything for Emma's sake. She clearly adores you. You are right. But maybe I need to prove it for my own sake. Vargas looked back toward her daughter, who was excitedly pointing at the boat's engine while Ramirez explained something. I spent 3 years trying to be invisible, trying to forget. But watching her look up to you SEALs this afternoon, I realized something. I want her to look at me that way. Not as someone who hides from her past, but as someone who owned it. Grayson felt his throat tighten. The woman standing before him was not trying to show him up or embarrass his team. She was trying to reclaim a piece of herself she had buried. We will set up the shot, he said. Whatever you need. One request, Vargas added. Can Emma watch? From a safe distance, obviously. But I want her to see this. Grayson nodded. Of course. 20 minutes later, the entire SEAL platoon had gathered to watch. Word had spread quickly through the base, and off-duty personnel drifted over to see what the commotion was about. Tom Hendricks set up the 1,000-meter target, a full-size silhouette that could traverse on motorized rails. Emma sat on a bench with Ramirez, who explained what was happening in terms an 80-year-old could understand. Your mom is going to shoot a target that is really, really far away, farther than 3 football fields. Can she do it? Emma asked. Ramirez looked at Vargas, who was examining the rifle Booker had handed her. An M110 semi-automatic sniper system she had specifically requested, claiming she had never fired that particular platform before. Kid, I think your mom can do just about anything. Vargas settled into position, and the range fell silent. Grayson watched through his spotting scope as she made minute adjustments to the rifle, building her position from the ground up. Her breathing pattern became visible in the rise and fall of her shoulders, then disappeared as she achieved the stillness that preceded the shot. Target moving, Hendricks called out. Left to right, 8 miles per hour. Vargas tracked the silhouette through her scope. Grayson held his breath. At 1,000 meters, wind drift alone could push around several feet off target. Temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, even the rotation of the Earth had to be factored in. And she was doing all of that math in her head with an unfamiliar rifle on a moving target. The M110 cracked once. The sound echoed across the range and faded into silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the distant target jerked violently as the round impacted center mass. "Hit!" Hendricks called out, his voice tinged with awe. "Dead center." Emma jumped up from the bench. "Mommy did it. She hit the target." Vargas fired again. Another hit. Then a third shot as the target reversed direction. Impact. 3 rounds, 3 hits at 1,000 meters on a moving target with a rifle she had never touched before today. Grayson lowered his spotting scope, stunned into silence. This was beyond skill. This was artistry. This was the kind of shooting that should not be possible. Vargas stood, safed the rifle, and walked back to where Emma waited. Her daughter crashed into her with a hug. "That was so cool, Mommy. You were like a superhero." "Just training, sweetheart," Vargas said quietly. "But thank you." Grayson approached slowly, Booker beside him. He had no idea what to say. Every assumption he had made that morning had been systematically destroyed. This woman, this quiet mother who wanted nothing more than to give her daughter a normal life, was possibly the finest sniper he had ever witnessed. "Miss Vargas," he started. She looked at him, waiting. "I was wrong," Grayson said simply. "About everything. And I apologize." Vargas studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "Apology accepted, Lieutenant. Now if you will excuse me, Emma and I have plans to get ice cream." As she walked away, Emma's voice drifted back. "Mommy, are you famous?" "No, baby. Just old." Booker leaned close to Grayson. "Sir, we just witnessed something special." Grayson watched them go, mother and daughter hand in hand, and wondered what other secrets Alexis Vargas carried. And why, despite everything she had just demonstrated, she still looked like someone running from ghosts. Grayson spent that night researching. He pulled every string he had, called in favors from intelligence contacts, dug through classified after-action reports that he technically should not have had access to. By 2 in the morning, he had assembled a fragmentary picture of Alexis Vargas that made his earlier behavior seem even worse. Silver Star for actions in Mosul. Bronze Star with valor for Ramadi. Purple Heart from an IED strike that had killed her spotter and left her with a perforated eardrum and shrapnel scars. 2 Army Commendation Medals. The citations were heavily redacted, but the pattern was clear. She had not just served. She had distinguished herself in ways that most soldiers never would. But it was the gaps in her record that disturbed him most. 3 separate 6-month periods where her location was listed as classified. No unit assignment. No duty station. Just black space where operations had been scrubbed from official records. Those gaps meant things so sensitive that even years later, they could not be acknowledged. The next morning, Grayson arrived at the base to find Booker waiting outside the team room with a serious expression. "We have a problem, sir. Commander Keller wants to see you." Now, Commander James Keller ran all SEAL operations out of Coronado. He was a legend in the community, 25 years in the teams, multiple deployments, the kind of officer who commanded absolute respect. Grayson had briefed Keller dozens of times, but had never seen him look as intense as he did now. "Shut the door, Lieutenant." Keller's office was Spartan, decorated only with unit plaques and a few framed photos of his various platoons over the years. "Sit down." Grayson sat, suddenly feeling like he was about to get reamed for something. "Tell me about yesterday," Keller said. "Tell me about the woman who shot on your range." Grayson recounted the events, from Vargas's arrival through her final demonstration. Keller listened without interrupting, his face unreadable. When Grayson finished, the commander leaned back in his chair. "Alexis Vargas. I read about her in an after-action report from Ramadi. She saved a SEAL team that was pinned down by insurgent fire, made 3 impossible shots that allowed them to extract." Keller paused. "Lieutenant, that SEAL team leader was a young officer on his 2nd deployment. His name was Marcus Grayson." The words hit like a physical blow. Grayson's mind reeled back to 2016, to the ambush on the outskirts of Ramadi that had nearly killed him and his entire element. They had been trapped in a building, taking fire from multiple positions, casualties mounting. And then suddenly, impossibly, the enemy guns had gone silent. One by one, the insurgent fighters dropped. At the time, Grayson had been told a Delta Force element had provided support, but the specifics were never shared. That was her. Grayson's voice came out rough. She pulled us out of that hell? According to the classified report, yes. Keller pulled up a file on his computer, turned the screen toward Grayson. This is the after-action summary. Read the relevant section. Grayson leaned forward, scanning the text. Unknown JSOC sniper element provided precision fire support from elevated position approximately 800 meters southwest of objective. 3 confirmed enemy kills at extended range allowed for successful extraction of friendly forces. Recommend sniper element for commendation. Then, at the bottom in Keller's own handwriting from years ago, go save my men today. Whoever she is the real deal. You wrote this, Grayson said. I did. I commanded the task force your platoon was attached to. I was the one who requested the sniper support. Keller's expression hardened. And yesterday, you mocked the woman who saved your life. Treated her like she was a tourist looking for a thrill. The shame was overwhelming. Grayson had spent 8 years thinking some faceless Delta operator had been his guardian angel that day, had toasted that unknown hero countless times with his fellow SEALs. And all along, it had been a woman he would have dismissed as incapable. Sir, I did not know. That is exactly the problem, Lieutenant. You did not know, so you assumed. Keller stood, moved to the window overlooking the base. Alexis Vargas is one of the finest combat snipers this country has ever produced. Her record is classified because most of her kills were high-value targets whose deaths could not be publicly acknowledged. But the people who know, the people who were there, we understand what she sacrificed. Grayson found his voice. What happened to her? Why did she leave? Keller turned back, his face grim. Her spotter was killed in 2017. Kid named Danny Ortiz, 23 years old, best friends since they went through SOTIC together. They were providing overwatch in Mosul when an IED went off beneath their position. Danny died instantly. Alexis was thrown 30 feet, suffered a traumatic brain injury, damaged hearing, psychological trauma. After she recovered physically, she tried to go back. But the PTSD was too severe. She could not function in combat anymore. The words landed heavy. Grayson thought about Vargas's quiet demeanor, the way she had held back until Emma needed her to be strong. The tremor he had noticed in her hands when she first picked up the rifle. He had interpreted it as nervousness, but it might have been something much darker. Does she still struggle? Grayson asked. According to her VA records, which I have clearance to access, yes. She has nightmares, panic attacks, hypervigilance, the whole package. Keller's voice softened slightly, but she has worked hard to build a life for her daughter, stayed away from anything that might trigger her symptoms. Until yesterday, when you pushed her to shoot. Grayson felt sick. I did not realize I was asking her to relive trauma. Neither did she, probably. That is the insidious thing about PTSD. You think you have it under control until something triggers it. Keller returned to his desk, which brings me to why I called you here. Alexis Vargas is coming to the base this afternoon. She requested a meeting with me, and she specifically asked that you be present. Why would she want me there? I do not know, but you're going to attend, and you're going to listen to whatever she has to say. Understood? Yes, sir. For hours later, Grayson stood outside Keller's office again, this time with Booker beside him. Vargas arrived precisely on time, dressed in simple civilian clothes, her hair pulled back. She looked tired, like she had not slept much. Miss Vargas, Keller greeted her warmly. Thank you for coming. Please sit down. She settled into a chair, hands folded in her lap. Commander Keller, Lieutenant Grayson, Senior Chief Booker, thank you for seeing me. Of course, Keller said. What can we do for you? Vargas took a breath. After yesterday, I realized something. I have been hiding for 3 years, pretending that part of my life never happened. But it did happen, and it shaped who I am. And more importantly, people like Lieutenant Grayson need to understand that women are capable of everything men are in combat roles. Nobody here doubts that anymore, Grayson said quietly. Maybe not now, but how many other female soldiers are out there being dismissed because of assumptions? How many are not getting opportunities because decision-makers think they cannot handle it? Vargas's voice remained calm, but determined. I want to help change that. So I'm offering my services as a civilian instructor. Sniper training, marksmanship fundamentals, tactical shooting. Whatever you need. Keller exchanged a glance with Grayson. That is a generous offer. But are you sure you are ready for that? Being around weapons, combat scenarios, even in a training environment? I do not know, Vargas admitted. But I think I need to try. For Emma. For myself. For every woman who comes after me. Before anyone could respond, the door burst open. Ramirez stood there, out of breath. Sir, we have a situation. There's a guy in the parking lot harassing a woman with a kid. Says she owes him money. It is getting heated. Grayson was already moving, but Vargas was faster. She bolted from a chair and out the door. Grayson followed, Keller and Booker right behind him. They reached the parking lot to find a large man, heavily muscled with gang tattoos visible on his neck, looming over Emma. The girl was pressed against a car, tears streaming down her face. Vargas placed herself between them instantly. Step away from my daughter, she said, her voice deadly quiet. The man sneered. You're Alexis, right? Your landlord sent me. Says you're 3 weeks late on rent. Maybe you should pay your bills instead of playing soldier. I'm not late. I paid on the 1st of the month. Vargas did not move, did not raise her voice. You need to leave. Now. Or what? The man stepped closer, clearly trying to intimidate. You gonna do something about it, little girl? Grayson started forward, but Keller held up a hand. Wait. Watch. The man reached for Vargas, and what happened next took less than 3 seconds. She sidestepped, trapped his arm, applied pressure to his wrist that drove him to his knees. Then she swept his legs and put him face down on the asphalt with her knee in his back and his arm twisted at an angle that made Grayson wince. I asked you nicely, she said, still quiet. Now I'm telling you, leave my daughter alone. Leave me alone. And tell my landlord that if he sends another thug instead of talking to me like an adult, I will file a restraining order. She released him, stepped back smoothly. The man scrambled to his feet, shock and rage warring on his face. You crazy bitch. Grayson stepped forward now, Booker beside him. The man looked at their uniforms, at the gathering crowd of SEALs, and made a calculation. This is not over, he spat, backing toward a beat-up sedan. Actually, it is, Keller said, his commander voice cutting through the tension. Security, please escort this individual off the base. And notify the local police that he threatened a civilian on federal property. 2 base security personnel materialized and flanked the man, who cursed but allowed himself to be led away. Grayson turned to Vargas, who had already scooped Emma into her arms. The girl was sobbing, clinging to her mother. It is okay, baby. He is gone. You are safe. Vargas's hands trembled now, the adrenaline crash hitting. I'm so sorry you had to see that. You protected me, Emma hiccuped, like you protected those soldiers. Always, Vargas whispered. Always. Grayson met Keller's eyes. The commander nodded once, decision made. Miss Vargas, when you are ready, we would be honored to have you as an instructor. Keller's voice was gentle. And if you need help with your landlord situation, we have legal resources available. Vargas looked up, tears on her own cheeks now. Thank you, Commander. That means more than you know. As she carried Emma toward her car, Booker spoke quietly. Sir, that was not regular combatives. That was close-quarters combat training. The kind they teach to people who need to kill silently. I know, Grayson said, and I mocked her. Treated her like she did not belong. Now you know better, Keller said. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Grayson watched Vargas comfort her daughter. This woman who had saved his life, who had sacrificed so much, who was still fighting battles most people never saw. He made a decision. I'm going to make sure everyone on this base knows who she is, what she did, what she represents. and I'm going to personally request that she train my platoon." "Good," Keller said. "Because, Lieutenant, you have a lot to learn, and she's exactly the person to teach you." 2 days passed before Grayson saw Vargas again. He had spent that time reviewing the Ramadi operation file, reading every detail he could access about the ambush that had nearly killed him and his team. The reports confirmed what Keller had told him. 3 precision shots at ranges exceeding 700 meters, each one eliminating an insurgent who had his element pinned down. The final shot had taken out a machine gunner who was seconds away from flanking their position. That shot had saved Grayson's life specifically. He remembered that day with perfect clarity now. The terror as bullets tore through the walls around them. The screams of his wounded teammates. The certainty that they were all going to die in that dusty building in Ramadi. And then the sudden silence as unseen angels eliminated their attackers. He had thanked God and dealt a force, never knowing the angel had been a woman he would later dismiss as unqualified. Booker found him in the team room, staring at the mission photos. "Sir, she is here, on the range with Commander Keller." Grayson grabbed his cover and headed outside. The morning was cool, fog still hanging over the base. He could hear the crack of rifle fire before he saw the range. Vargas was in prone position, methodically working through targets at various distances. Keller stood nearby with a clipboard, making notes. As Grayson approached, he noticed something different about Vargas. Her hands were steady on the rifle, but her breathing was irregular. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cool temperature. When she took the next shot, her follow-throw was perfect, but he saw her jaw clench, saw the tension radiating through her shoulders. She finished the string of fire, safed the weapon, and stood. That was when Grayson saw her hands shaking. Not the slight tremor from before. A full shake that she tried to hide by clasping them together. "Good shooting," Keller said neutrally. "But your heart rate is elevated. I can see in your neck. What are you feeling right now?" Vargas took a breath, released it slowly. "Anxiety. Hypervigilance. I keep scanning for threats that are not there. The sound of the rifle is triggering memories." "That is honest." Keller made a note. "Can you continue?" She nodded, but Grayson saw the cost in her eyes. "Yes, sir." "No," Grayson heard himself say. Both Keller and Vargas turned to look at him. He stepped forward. "Miss Vargas, with respect, you do not have to prove anything else. We know what you are capable of. This is not about proving capability, Lieutenant." Vargas's voice was strained. "This is about facing what I have been running from. If I cannot handle shooting on a controlled range with friendly people around me, how can I possibly teach others?" "By acknowledging your limits," Grayson said. "There is no shame in PTSD. Half the SEALs I know deal with it in some form. But they still operate," she countered. "They still function. Some of them do not," Booker said quietly, joining the conversation. "Some of them end up divorced, addicted, or dead because they would not admit they needed help. You are being smarter than they were." Vargas looked at the rifle in her hands like it was a venomous snake. "I used to love this. The precision, the discipline, the purpose. Now every time I pick up a weapon, I see Danny's face. I hear the explosion. I feel the heat." "Tell me about Danny," Keller said gently. "What was he like?" For a moment, Grayson thought she would refuse. Then she started talking, her voice thick with emotion. "Danny Ortiz, from San Antonio. Wanted to be a teacher before he joined the Army. He was my spotter for 3 years. Best friend I ever had. He made me laugh during the worst moments. Kept me grounded when the killing got to be too much." She paused, struggling. "We were in Mosul, providing overwatch for a raid. We had been in position for 6 hours. Danny was eating beef jerky, complaining about how his girlfriend back home wanted him to become a vegetarian, making jokes about trying to explain to her that MREs do not come in vegan options. And then the world exploded. The silence that followed was heavy. Grayson felt like an intruder on this moment of grief, but he could not look away. "The IED was under our position," Vargas continued. "Someone must have spotted us, planted it while we were focused on the objective. Danny died instantly. Shrapnel through the neck. I was thrown clear, unconscious. When I came to, he was just gone, and I could not even stay with his body. had to be evacuated because insurgents were moving in. Keller set down his clipboard. That was not your fault. I know that intellectually, Commander, but my heart does not believe it. I was the senior operator. I should have spotted the threat. I should have moved positions. I should have saved him. He would not want you destroying yourself over his death, Booker said. No good soldier wants that for their battle buddy. Vargas wiped her eyes roughly. I know that too, but knowing something and feeling it are different things. Grayson stepped closer. After Ramadi, after you pulled us out, I struggled for months. Nightmares about what would have happened if you had not been there. Guilt that I had lost 2 good men, even though you saved the rest of us. I drank too much. Pushed away everyone who cared about me. It took hitting rock bottom before I got help. What changed? Vargas asked. My platoon chief, a guy named Martinez, dragged me to the VA, literally dragged me. Told me I had 2 choices, get help or get out of the teams. Grayson met her eyes. Best thing anyone ever did for me. Saved my career. Probably saved my life. I have been to the VA, Vargas said. I have a therapist. I take medication. I do the work. But some days it feels like I'm drowning and everyone expects me to just swim. Then stop swimming alone, Keller said. Miss Vargas, I'm not going to accept you as an instructor right now. Not because you're not qualified, but because you're not ready. And pushing yourself before you are ready helps no one. The rejection hit her visibly. She looked down, shoulders sagging. I understand, sir. However, Keller continued, I'm going to offer you something else. We have a program for veterans transitioning out of combat roles. Peer support, therapy groups, skills training. It is run by former special operations personnel who understand what you have been through. I want you to participate in that program. And when you are ready, when you have the tools to manage your symptoms, then we talk about you teaching. Vargas was quiet for a long moment. That sounds like you are benching me, Commander. I am protecting you, Keller corrected gently. The same way you protected Lieutenant Grayson in Ramadi. Sometimes the bravest thing a warrior can do is admit they need help. Grayson watched emotions play across Vargas's face. Pride fighting with desperation. Shame wrestling with relief. Finally, she nodded. Okay, I will do the program. Good, Keller said. It starts next Monday. 3 times a week, 2 hours per session. Booker will get you the details. As Keller walked away, Grayson and Vargas stood in awkward silence. Finally, she spoke. I am sorry you had to see me fall apart, Lieutenant. You did not fall apart. You were honest about your struggle. That takes more courage than most people have. She laughed bitterly. Does not feel like courage. Feels like weakness. Then your feelings are lying to you, Grayson said firmly. I have seen weakness, Miss Vargas. I have seen men quit when things got hard. I have seen soldiers hide behind excuses and blame others for their failures. You're not weak. You are wounded. There is a difference. Emma does not need a wounded mother. She needs someone strong. She needs someone real, Grayson countered. Someone who shows her that even heroes struggle sometimes. That asking for help is not giving up. Vargas looked at him searchingly. Why do you care, Lieutenant? 2 days ago, you thought I was a fraud. Because 2 days ago, I was an arrogant ass who made assumptions based on prejudice instead of evidence. Grayson took a breath. And because 8 years ago in Ramadi, you saved my life. I owe you a debt I can never repay. The least I can do is help you save yourself. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She did not try to hide them this time. I do not know if I can be saved. Some days the darkness is so deep, I do not see a way out. Then we will find the way together, Booker said, appearing beside them. You, me, the LT, everyone in this program. You're not alone anymore, Alexis. You just have to stop pretending you are. Grayson extended his hand. Miss Vargas, I would be honored to be part of your support system. Whatever you need. She looked at his hand, then took it. Her grip was strong despite the tremors. Thank you, Lieutenant. Both of you. As they walked back toward the parking lot, Ramirez jogged up to them. Sir, there's something you need to know. That guy from the parking lot, the one who threatened Miss Vargas? He is back, and this time he brought friends. Grayson's expression hardened. How many? 4 of them, waiting by her car, saying they're not leaving until she pays what she owes. Vargas went pale. I do not owe anything. I have proof I paid rent. This is harassment. Then we will make it stop, Grayson said. Booker, get base security. Ramirez, stay with Miss Vargas. I'm going to have a conversation with these gentlemen about what happens when you threaten people on a military installation. Lieutenant, wait. Vargas grabbed his arm. These men are dangerous. They have connections to a gang that runs the neighborhood where I live. If you confront them, it could escalate. Good, Grayson said coldly. Let it escalate. Let them learn what happens when they mess with someone under SEAL protection. He started toward the parking lot, and Vargas called after him. Why are you doing this? He turned back, and his voice was steel. Because in Ramadi, you stood between me and certain death. Now it is my turn to stand between you and anyone who tries to hurt you or your daughter. That is what brothers and sisters in arms do for each other. Vargas stared at him, understanding dawning in her eyes. You mean that? You actually consider me part of your team? I consider you one of the finest warriors I have ever met, Grayson said. And I am done standing by while people treat you as anything less. He headed toward the parking lot, Booker falling in beside him. As they approached, they could see 4 men leaning against Vargas's car. One of them was the thug from before. The others looked even more dangerous, covered in prison tattoos, radiating violence. Gentlemen, Grayson called out. You are on federal property without authorization. You have 30 seconds to leave before I have you arrested. The largest one, a man who had to be 6'5" and 300 pounds of muscle, laughed. Or what, Navy boy? You gonna do something about it? Grayson smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Actually, I'm going to let the woman you have been harassing do something about it. Because unlike you, I know exactly what she is capable of. And unlike me, she does not have to follow rules of engagement anymore. The tension in the parking lot was electric. The 4 men spread out in a loose semicircle, trying to use their numbers as intimidation. Grayson stood his ground, Booker beside him. Behind them, more SEALs were emerging from buildings, drawn by the brewing confrontation. The big man stepped forward, jabbing a finger toward Grayson's chest. You do not know who you are messing with, sailor. We run this town. That bitch owes money, and we are collecting. Before Grayson could respond, Vargas's voice cut through the air. I do not owe anyone anything, Martinez. I have bank records showing I paid rent on the 1st. Your boss is running a scam, and you know it. Martinez turned his attention to her, his face twisted with contempt. Boss says you're 3 weeks late. Says you have been dodging him. Maybe if you were not playing soldier girl, you would have time to handle your business. Emma was still with Ramirez, safely out of sight, but Grayson saw Vargas's eyes flick toward where her daughter waited. The protective instinct was visceral, almost feral. These men had threatened her child. That changed everything. You need to leave, Vargas said, her voice dropping to that deadly quiet Grayson had heard before. Right now, before this gets worse. Martinez laughed. Worse for who? You? You got no backup out here, sweetheart. Just some pretty boys in uniforms who bleed the same as anyone else. Actually, Keller's voice rang out from behind them. She has considerable backup. The commander walked forward, flanked by a dozen SEALs, all of them stone-faced. And I strongly suggest you reconsider your position, gentlemen. You are currently threatening a decorated combat veteran on a federal military installation that carries serious legal consequences. Martinez's confidence wavered slightly, but he held his ground. We got rights. She owes money. We are entitled to collect. Then hire a lawyer and take her to small claims court, Keller said coldly. But if you come here again, if you approach her or her daughter anywhere, I will personally ensure that every law enforcement agency in San Diego County knows your faces. Am I clear? One of the other men, younger with a teardrop tattoo under his eye, pulled out a phone and started recording. Yeah, record this. Military threatening civilians. Police brutality. We will own this base when we are done. Grayson felt his temper rising, but Booker touched his arm in warning. Let it play out, the senior chief murmured. Miss Vargas, Keller said without taking his eyes off Martinez, would you like to press charges for trespassing and harassment? Before she could answer, Martinez made his mistake. He lunged forward, grabbing for Vargas's arm. You think you are tough? You think hiding behind these clowns makes you safe? What happened next took less than 2 seconds. Vargas sidestepped, trapped Martinez's wrist, and used his own momentum to drive him face first into the hood of her car. She twisted his arm behind his back and applied pressure to a nerve cluster that made the big man cry out. "I told you to leave," she said quietly. "You did not listen." The other 3 men moved forward, but they found themselves facing a wall of SEALs. Grayson stepped directly in front of the closest one, his voice ice. "I would not recommend it." Martinez struggled against Vargas's hold, but she increased the pressure, making him gasp. She leaned close, speaking directly into his ear. "I know exactly how much force it takes to dislocate a shoulder. About 3 more pounds of pressure from where we are now. So I'm going to give you one chance. You and your friends leave. You never come near me or my daughter again. And you tell whoever sent you that if they have a problem with my rent, they can take me to court like civilized people. Otherwise, things will get very unpleasant." "You crazy bitch," Martinez hissed through clenched teeth. "You do not know what you are starting." "Actually, I do." Vargas's voice remained calm, almost clinical. "I spent 6 years hunting people far more dangerous than you. I know 43 different ways to kill a man with my bare hands. I know how to make deaths look like accidents. I know how to disappear bodies in ways they're never found. Those are skills the Army spent millions of dollars teaching me. So please continue threatening my child. Give me a legal justification to use what I learned." The parking lot went dead silent. Even the SEALs looked shocked. Grayson realized he was seeing a glimpse of the operator Vargas had been, the ghost of Ramadi who had terrorized insurgent networks. This was not a struggling veteran. This was a predator barely restrained by civilization. "We are done here," Martinez said, his bravado crumbling. "Let me go." Vargas released him and stepped back smoothly. Martinez stumbled, clutching his arm. The recording phone had been lowered, the young gang member looking genuinely frightened. Keller gestured toward the gate. "Security will escort you off base. If you return, you will be arrested." "That is not a threat. That is a guarantee." The 4 men retreated toward the exit, Martinez shooting venomous looks over his shoulder. As they disappeared, the tension drained from the parking lot. SEALs began dispersing back to their duties. Keller turned to Vargas. "That was well handled, though I hope you were exaggerating about the 43 ways to kill someone." Vargas's shoulders sagged, the predator vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. "Actually, sir, I was understating. The classified count is 68, but I did not want to terrify them too much." "Jesus, Bukir Muterid. Remind me never to get on your bad side." Emma came running from where Ramirez had kept her safely away. "Mommy, are you okay? Did those bad men hurt you?" Vargas scooped her daughter up, holding her tight. "I'm fine, baby. They're gone now. You are safe." "You were so brave," Emma said. "Just like a superhero. Just protecting my family," Vargas whispered. "That is what mommies do." Grayson approached cautiously. "Miss Vargas, I think it is time you knew something. The whole truth about Ramadi." She looked at him over Emma's shoulder. "What do you mean?" "I was there. I was the SEAL team leader you saved." Grayson's voice was thick with emotion. "That building where we were pinned down, taking fire from all sides, certain we were going to die. You made those impossible shots. You saved 12 men that day. You saved me." Vargas went very still. "You were Lieutenant Grayson? The one calling for fire support?" "Yes. I never knew who pulled us out. The mission was classified. But Commander Keller showed me the after-action report. It was you. You made 3 shots at over 700 meters in combat conditions, under time pressure. And you did not miss once." Tears welled in her eyes. "I remember that day. I remember hearing the desperation in the radio calls, knowing that if I did not make those shots, good men were going to die. You made them," Booker said gently. "Every single one. And we are all here today because of you." Emma looked between the adults, confusion on her young face. "Mommy saved your life?" "She did," Grayson confirmed. "Your mother is a genuine hero, Emma. One of the bravest people I have ever met." "Why did not you tell me, Mommy?" Emma asked. "Why did not you say you save people?" Vargas struggled for words. "Because saving people meant I also had to hurt people, baby, and that is not something I'm proud of, even when it was necessary." The adults understood the weight of that statement. The moral injury that came with taking lives, even enemy lives. The psychological cost of killing, even in service of a greater good. Keller stepped forward. Miss Vargas, I'm going to have base housing work with you on your landlord situation. If he is running a scam, we will expose it. And I am assigning a legal advocate to help you. Consider it the least we can do for someone who has given so much. Thank you, Commander, Vargas said quietly. That means everything. There's one more thing, Keller continued. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. This arrived this morning. It is from the Department of the Army. They are finally declassifying some of your service record, including your Silver Star citation. Vargas took the envelope with shaking hands. After all these years, policy changes, Keller explained. They're trying to recognize female combat veterans who served before official integration. Your name is being released, along with details of your most significant operations. Vargas opened the envelope, read the contents, and her face went white. No, they cannot do this. I do not want this publicized. I am afraid it is already done, Keller said gently. The Army is holding a ceremony next month in Washington. They want to honor you, along with other female combat veterans who served in classified roles. I do not want a ceremony. I want to be left alone. Vargas's voice rose with panic. If my name gets out there, if people know what I did, Emma will be targeted. Anyone who wants revenge for the people I killed will know exactly where to find us. Grayson understood immediately. She had not been hiding from shame. She had been hiding for survival. Every enemy she had made during her years of combat could now potentially find her. We will protect you, he said firmly. You and Emma both. You have my word. How? Vargas demanded. You cannot guard us every hour of every day. And once the media gets hold of this, once my face is on the news as the ghost of Ramadi, every jihadist sympathizer and revenge-seeking relative will know where I live. Then you move on a base, Booker suggested. Base housing, secure perimeter, armed guards. Let us help. I cannot live on a military base. I am a civilian. I have a life, a job, friends. Emma has school. Vargas was spiraling, the panic attack visible in her rapid breathing and dilated pupils. Mommy, you are scaring me, Emma whimpered. Vargas forced herself to breathe, to calm down for her daughter's sake. But Grayson could see the fear in her eyes. Her carefully constructed anonymous life was crumbling. The ghost was about to be exposed, and she knew exactly what that could mean. I need to think, she said finally. I need to figure out what to do. You have time, Keller assured her. The ceremony is not for 3 weeks. And in the meantime, we will work on security measures. But Miss Vargas, you should know something else. The Army wants you to speak, to tell your story, to inspire the next generation of female soldiers. I am not a role model, Vargas said bitterly. I'm a killer who got lucky enough to survive. That is not inspirational. That is tragic. You are whatever you choose to be, Grayson said. But know this. Every woman currently serving in a combat role, everyone who fought for the right to serve equally, they're standing on your shoulders. You proved it was possible. You kicked down doors they are now walking through. I just wanted to serve, Vargas whispered. I never want to be a symbol. None of us get to choose our legacy, Keller said. We only get to choose our actions. And your actions saved lives, including the lives of the men standing here today. That matters, whether you accept it or not. Vargas looked at Grayson, at Booker, at the base around her. Then she looked down at Emma, who was watching her with complete trust and love. Okay, she said finally. Okay, I will do the ceremony. I will tell my story. But I need help keeping Emma safe. That is non-negotiable. You have it, Grayson promised. Whatever it takes. As Vargas walked her car with Emma, Booker leaned close to Grayson. Sir, do you realize what we just committed to? Round-the-clock protection for a civilian and her child? I realize we owe her our lives, Grayson replied. And I realize that if anything happens to her or that little girl because her heroism is being made public, I will never forgive myself. He watched Vargas drive away and made a silent vow. The ghost of Ramadi had saved him once. Now he would return the favor, no matter what it cost. The next week passed in a blur of security assessments and planning. Grayson found himself spending every spare moment coordinating protection details for Vargas and Emma. Booker had pulled together a rotating team of SEALs who volunteered to provide discreet security. Ramirez had become Emma's unofficial guardian, walking her to and from school, teaching her about boats and ocean wildlife to keep her mind off the tension. Vargas participated in the veteran support program Keller had recommended, attending sessions 3 times a week. Grayson noticed subtle changes in her. The constant hypervigilance seemed to ease slightly. The tremor in her hands appeared less frequently. But the fear remained, especially when she talked about the upcoming ceremony. On Thursday evening, Grayson arrived at the small house Vargas rented to check on the security upgrades. New locks, motion sensors, panic buttons linked directly to base security. He found her sitting on the front porch, watching Emma play in the yard with a neighbor's dog. "Lieutenant," she greeted him. "You did not have to come personally. Your team already installed everything this morning." "I know." He sat down beside her, leaving respectful space between them. "I wanted to check on you, see how you're handling all of this. Honestly, I am terrified." Vargas kept her eyes on Emma. "Every car that drives by, I am calculating threat assessment. Every stranger who looks at Emma too long, I am planning defensive responses. I thought I had moved past this, but it turns out I just buried it. The program is helping though, right?" "It is. Talking to other veterans who understand, who have been through similar struggles, that helps. But there is a difference between managing PTSD in a quiet life and managing it when you know real threats might be coming." "We will not let anything happen to you or Emma," Grayson said firmly. "You cannot promise that, Lieutenant. You know that as well as I do." Vargas finally looked at him. "You have seen combat. You know that sometimes bad things happen despite everyone's best efforts. Danny had an entire platoon protecting him, and he still died." The grief in her voice was raw. Grayson chose his words carefully. "You are right. I cannot guarantee perfect safety, but I can guarantee that anyone who tries to hurt you will have to go through me and every SEAL on this base first. And that is a fight they will lose." "Why does this matter so much to you?" Vargas asked. "I understand the debt you feel about Ramadi, but this goes beyond that. You're putting your career on the line, using military resources for a civilian. Keller is looking the other way now, but that cannot last forever." "Because you were right," Grayson said quietly. "What you said about Emma seeing how I treated you that first day. It made me realize how many times I have made assumptions about people based on gender, race, background. How many talented people I might have dismissed because they did not fit my narrow definition of what a warrior looks like. So, I am a learning experience for you. No, you are a mirror, and I do not like everything I see reflected back." He paused. "When I was in that building in Ramadi, waiting to die, I prayed. I am not particularly religious, but I prayed that if I survived, I would be a better man, a better leader. And then I survived, and I forgot that promise. Until you walked onto my range and forced me to remember." Emma ran up to the porch, breathless and laughing. "Mommy, can Petty Officer Ramirez teach me to tie sailor knots tomorrow? He says he knows like 100 different kinds. If he has time, baby. But remember, these men have important jobs. They are being very kind to spend time with us." "It is not kindness," Grayson said to Emma. "It is an honor. Your mom is a hero, and heroes deserve our best." Emma beamed at him, then ran back to play with the dog. Vargas watched her go, emotion flickering across her face. "She's going to ask questions soon," Vargas said, "about what I did in the war, about why all these Navy men are suddenly around. I have been avoiding those conversations, but she is too smart. She will figure it out." "What will you tell her?" "The truth, I suppose. Age-appropriate truth, but truth nonetheless. That I was a soldier who protected people. That sometimes I had to make hard choices. That I am not proud of the killing, but I am proud of the lives I saved." "That sounds like a good answer," Grayson said. "Does it? Because I'm not sure I believe it myself." Vargas's voice dropped. "Do you know how many people I killed, Lieutenant? The actual number, not the official count?" Grayson shook his head. 89 confirmed. But there were probably more that were never confirmed. Bodies that insurgents carried away before they could be counted. Every single one of those people had families. had mothers who loved them, children who will grow up without fathers. And yes, they were enemy combatants. Yes, they would have killed Americans if given the chance. But they were still human beings, and I ended their lives. You saved more lives than you took, Grayson offered. Does that math really work? Because it does not feel like it balances. She wrapped her arms around herself. I dream about them sometimes. The ones I killed. I see their faces in my scope. I watch them drop. And I wake up wondering if there was another way. If I could have been smarter, better, found solutions that did not require killing. There was not, Grayson said gently. I have been in those situations. Sometimes the only choice is between bad and worse. You chose to protect American lives. That was the right call. Was it? Or did I just tell myself that to sleep at night? Vargas looked at him with haunted eyes. What if the whole war was wrong? What if we should not have been there in the first place? Then what does that make me? A hero or a murderer? It makes you a soldier who followed lawful orders and protected your brothers and sisters in arms. Grayson's voice was firm. You did not start the war. You did not make policy. You just did your job with exceptional skill and courage. That is enough. Is it enough for Emma? When she is older and understands what I did, will she still look at me the way she does now? Or will she see me as someone who killed people? She will see you as someone who made sacrifices she cannot fully understand, Grayson said. And she will be proud of you, just like I am. Vargas studied him for a long moment. You really mean that? You are not just saying what you think I need to hear. I mean it. He met her eyes directly. You are one of the most remarkable people I have ever met. And I'm grateful that my arrogance that first day did not drive you away permanently. A small smile touched her lips. You were pretty insufferable. I was a complete ass. Still am, sometimes. But I'm working on it. They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching Emma play as the sun began to set. Finally, Vargas spoke again. The ceremony is in 2 weeks. I need to decide what I'm going to say. The Army want me to talk about breaking barriers, being a role model, inspiring young women. But I do not feel inspiring. I feel broken. Then talk about that, Grayson suggested. Talk about the cost. Talk about the struggle. That is more valuable than some sanitized hero story. You think people want to hear about PTSD and moral injury? I think people need to hear it. Every young person considering military service needs to understand what they're signing up for. The glory and the trauma. Vargas turned to look at him. You could do more good being honest about your struggles than you could telling them what they want to hear. Maybe, she said softly. But what if being honest means Emma hears things she is not ready for? What if the media twists my words? What if I make everything worse? Then we deal with it together, Grayson said. You, me, Booker, Ramirez, the whole team. You're not alone in this anymore. Tears welled in her eyes. I've been alone for so long. After Danny died, after I got out, I just shut everyone out. Thought I was protecting them from my darkness. But really, I was just isolating myself. Danny would not have wanted that, Grayson said gently. No, he would have kicked my ass for it. Vargas laughed through her tears. He always said I was too stubborn for my own good, that I needed to learn to accept help. Sounds like he knew you well. He knew me better than anyone. We spent 3 years in combat together. You develop a bond in those conditions that is hard to explain to civilians. He was my best friend, my brother, my anchor. And when he died, part of me died with him. But Emma was born after his death, right? Grayson asked. 2 months after. I was pregnant when the IED went off. Did not even know it yet. Vargas wiped her eyes. Finding out I was carrying Emma, that gave me a reason to keep going. A reason to fight through the trauma and build a life. She saved me as much as I protect her. She is lucky to have you. I hope she still thinks so when she is older and understands everything. She will, Grayson assured her, because you're giving her something precious. A mother who is honest about her struggles, who shows her that strength is not about being invulnerable. It is about getting back up after you fall. When did you become so wise, Lieutenant? I'm not wise. I'm just repeating what my therapist told me after Ramadi. Took me years to actually believe it. Emma ran back up to the porch. Mommy, I'm hungry. Can we have tacos for dinner? Tacos sound perfect, baby. Vargas stood, then looked at Grayson. Would you like to stay, Lieutenant? It is the least I can offer after everything you have done. Grayson was about to decline, maintaining professional boundaries, but something in her expression stopped him. She was not just being polite. She was reaching out, trying to connect, to build the support system she had denied herself for so long. "I will be honored," he said. "Thank you." As they went inside, Emma chattering about her day, Grayson realized something had shifted. This was not just about protecting someone he owed a debt to anymore. This was about family. The found family that military service created, the bonds forged through shared trauma and mutual respect. And as he sat at Vargas's kitchen table, watching her laugh at Emma's stories, he understood what Danny must have seen in her all those years ago. Not just a skilled operator, but a person worth knowing, worth protecting, worth honoring. The ghost of Ramadi was becoming human again, and Grayson was determined to make sure she stayed alive long enough to fully heal. 10 days before the ceremony, everything changed. Grayson was in a briefing when Booker burst through the door, his face grim. "Sir, we have a problem. Someone posted Alexis's address online. Forum for jihadist sympathizers. There are already threats being made." Grayson was out of his chair instantly. "Where is she now?" "At home with Emma. Ramirez is there, but we need to move them. Now." Keller stood as well. "Get them to base housing immediately. I will clear emergency authorization. And Grayson, take whoever you need. This is now a protection detail, not a favor." 20 minutes later, Grayson pulled up to Vargas's house with 4 other SEALs. Ramirez met them at the door, rifle in hand. "She is packing essentials now. Emma does not understand what is happening." Inside, Vargas moved with controlled efficiency, throwing clothes and important documents into bags. But Grayson could see the fear in her eyes, the way her hands shook as she worked. "How bad is it?" she asked without stopping her packing. "Bad enough that we are not taking chances." Grayson helped her grab Emma's school things. "You are moving on a base tonight. We will have your belongings moved properly tomorrow." Emma appeared from her bedroom, clutching a stuffed dolphin. "Mommy, are we going on an adventure?" "Something like that, baby." Vargas's voice was steady for her daughter's sake. "We are going to stay with Lieutenant Grayson's friends for a little while. It will be fun. Can I bring Mr. Bubbles?" Emma held up the dolphin. "Of course. Bring whatever you need." As they loaded the car, Grayson noticed Vargas scanning the street with tactical awareness. Her training had kicked in, the operator emerging from beneath the worried mother. She caught him watching. "Old habits," she said quietly. "Once you learn to see threats everywhere, it is hard to turn it off. Right now, those habits might keep you alive." Grayson opened the car door for Emma. "We are taking separate vehicles. Booker will drive you and Emma in an unmarked car. I will follow in case anyone tries to tail you." "You really think someone might try something that quickly?" The threats were specific, Alexis. They mentioned Emma by name. They know what school she attends. "We are not taking any risks." Her face went pale. "They threaten my daughter? We will keep her safe. I promise you." Grayson placed a hand on her shoulder. "But we need to go now." The drive to base was tense. Grayson kept his eyes on the mirrors, watching for any vehicle that might be following. Booker took a circuitous route, doubling back twice to ensure they were not being tailed. When they finally reached the base housing unit that had been prepared, Grayson allowed himself a breath of relief. The apartment was small but secure, with armed guards posted outside and a panic room installed in the back bedroom. Vargas walked through it mechanically, her mind clearly elsewhere. "Emma, why did not you help Petty Officer Ramirez set up your room?" Grayson suggested. "Your mom and I need to talk for a minute." Once Emma was out of earshot, Vargas turned to face him. "This is my fault. I should have refused the ceremony. Should have told them to keep my identity classified. You did not do this. The people making threats did this." Grayson kept his voice firm. "And we're going to find them and make sure they cannot hurt you." "How?" "They're probably overseas. Probably in countries we cannot even access." Vargas paced the small living room. "I spent years hunting people like this. I know how they operate. They will wait, watch, plan, and eventually they will find an opening. Then we make sure there is no opening. You stay on base until after the ceremony. We fly you to Washington on a military transport. Secure convoy to the event. Armed protection the entire time. And after the ceremony? What then? Do Emma and I live on a military base forever? Do I homeschool her, never let her have a normal childhood, because my past caught up with me? We will figure it out. Grayson stopped her pacing, made her look at him. One step at a time. Right now, we focus on keeping you both safe. She searched his face. Why are you doing this? Really? It cannot just be about Ramadi. It is about a lot of things. Ramadi, respect, friendship. He paused. And maybe because I have never met anyone as brave as you. And I refuse to let cowards hiding behind keyboards hurt you or your daughter. I do not feel brave right now. I feel terrified. Brave is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite the fear. You taught me that in Ramadi, even if you did not know it. A knock at the door made them both tense. Booker entered, tablet in hand. Sir, we have identified the source of the threat. IP address traced back to an individual in Dearborn, Michigan. FBI is picking him up now. One threat down. Grayson looked at Vargas. See, we're already making progress. How many more are there? She asked softly. How many people want revenge for the insurgents I killed? Unknown, but we will deal with each one as they emerge. Booker's voice was steady. Ma'am, you have the entire SEAL community backing you. Word has spread about what you did in Ramadi, about how you saved Lieutenant Grayson's team. Every SEAL on this base considers you one of us now. Vargas's eyes filled with tears. I do not deserve that. You saved 12 SEALs, Grayson said. That earns you a lifetime of protection. We take care of our own. Emma ran back into the room. Mommy, look, the apartment has a bathtub with jets. Can I take a bath? After dinner, baby. Vargas wiped her eyes quickly, smiled for her daughter. Did you thank Petty Officer Ramirez for helping set up your room? Thank you, Petty Officer Ramirez. Emma said brightly, then hugged his leg. Ramirez grinned. You are very welcome, kiddo. And please, call me Miguel when we're not being formal. Over the next few days, a routine developed. Emma went to school with a protective detail that stayed discreet but vigilant. Vargas attended her therapy sessions with armed escorts. Grayson found himself spending every free moment at their apartment, ostensibly checking security, but really just being present. One evening, he arrived to find Vargas sitting alone on the small balcony, staring at the ocean in the distance. Emma was asleep inside, and the apartment was quiet. Mind if I join you? He asked. She gestured to the chair beside her. Rough day. Just thinking. About Danny. About the ceremony. About whether I am doing the right thing by speaking publicly. What would Danny say if he were here? She smiled sadly. He would tell me to stop overthinking everything. To trust my instincts. To remember that I survived for a reason. Sounds like good advice. He was always the optimist. Even in the worst situations, he found something to laugh about, to hope for. Vargas looked at Grayson. You remind me of him sometimes. The way you refuse to give up. The way you make people feel safe. I am honored by that comparison. You should be. He was the best person I ever knew. She paused. I never told you how he died. Not the full story. You do not have to. I want to. Vargas took a breath. We were on a rooftop in Mosul, providing overwatch for a raid on an ISIS safe house. We had been in position for hours. Danny was complaining about his feet hurting, making jokes about getting old at 23. And then I saw it. A flash of movement in a window across the street. Someone with an RPG. She closed her eyes, reliving the moment. I called it out. Started to take the shot. But the insurgent fired first, not at us at the building we were on. Someone must have spotted us earlier, planted an IED in the structure. The explosion was massive. Danny was between me and the blast. He shielded me without even thinking about it. Died so I could live. Alexis, I am so sorry. The worst part is that I made the shot anyway. After the explosion, half-conscious, bleeding, ears ringing so bad I could not hear anything. I still found the insurgent who fired the RPG and killed him. Muscle memory. Training. But it did not bring Danny back. Nothing could. Grayson sat with her grief, knowing words were inadequate. Finally, he spoke. Danny would be proud of you. Of how you survived. Of the life you built for Emma. Of your courage in facing your trauma instead of running from it. You think so? I know so. He sacrificed himself for you because he believed you were worth saving. Honor that by living fully, not by hiding in guilt. Vargas turned to look at him, vulnerability naked on her face. What if I fail at the ceremony? What if I freeze up or say the wrong thing? What if I let everyone down? Then you'll have tried. That is more than most people can say. Grayson leaned forward. But you will not fail. You're going to stand up there and tell your truth. And people will listen because your story matters. I have been writing my speech. She pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. Want to hear it? I will be honored. She smoothed the paper, cleared her throat. I'm not here today because I wanted recognition. I am here because the Army believes my story can inspire others. But the truth is, I'm not sure what my story is. Is it about a woman who proved she could do a man's job? Is it about courage in combat? Or is it about the cost of war, the trauma we carry, the friends we lose? She paused, her voice thickening. I joined the Army because I wanted to serve my country. I became a sniper because I was good at it and because it meant I could protect my brothers and sisters in arms. I killed 89 people, and I saved more lives than I can count. I earned medals and commendations. I did things I am proud of and things that haunt me. Good, Grayson said softly. Keep going. But what I want you to know, what I need you to understand, is that service is not about glory. It is about sacrifice. Danny Ortiz sacrificed his life for mine. My daughter sacrifices having a mother who is whole and undamaged. I sacrifice my peace of mind, my sense of safety, my belief that the world is fundamentally good. Those are the real costs of war. She looked up from the paper. And so when people call me a hero, I think about Danny, who never got to be honored. I think about the families of the people I killed, who see me as a monster. I think about Emma, who deserves a mother without nightmares. And I wonder if hero is the right word, or if survivor is more accurate. Grayson felt his throat tighten. That is perfect, Alexis. That is exactly what people need to hear. You do not think it is too dark? Too honest? I think it is brave. The bravest thing you could say. He met her eyes. And I think Danny would be proud as hell of you for having the courage to say it. She folded the paper carefully. Thank you, Marcus. For everything. For protecting us. For believing in me. For giving me the strength to face this. It was the first time she had used his first name. The intimacy of it felt significant, a barrier crossed. You already had the strength, he said. I just helped you remember it. From inside the apartment, Emma called out. Mommy? I had a bad dream. Vargas stood quickly. I am coming, baby. As she went to comfort her daughter, Grayson remained on the balcony, looking out at the dark ocean. 7 days until the ceremony. 7 days to keep them safe. 7 days to prepare for whatever came next. He pulled out his phone and texted Booker. I need increased security for the Washington trip, and I'm going with them. Non-negotiable. The response came quickly. Already planned on it, sir. She is family now. Grayson smiled at that. Yes, she was. The ghost of Ramadi had found her people again, and this time, they would not let her face the darkness alone. The flight to Washington was tense. Grayson, Booker, and Ramirez accompanied Vargas and Emma on a military transport, along with a full security detail. Emma thought it was an adventure, excited to see the nation's capital. Vargas sat rigid in her seat, fingers white-knuckled on the armrests. You okay? Grayson asked quietly, sitting beside her while Emma slept against Ramirez's shoulder. No, but I will be. Vargas forced herself to breathe. I keep thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. Active shooter at the ceremony. Car bomb. Sniper attack. My brain will not stop running scenarios. That is what we are here for. To handle the scenarios so you can focus on what you need to say. What if I freeze up there? What if I see all those people and just shut down? Then we will get you through it. Grayson placed his hand over hers. But you will not freeze. You have faced worse than a crowd of bureaucrats and journalists. Have I? Because right now, this feels more terrifying than combat ever did. That is because in combat, you only risk yourself. Here, you are risking vulnerability, showing people who you really are. That takes a different kind of courage. The ceremony was scheduled for the next afternoon at the Pentagon. They spent the night in a secure hotel with guards posted outside their rooms. Grayson barely slept, reviewing security protocols and checking in with the FBI agents coordinating threat assessment. At 6 in the morning, someone knocked on his door. He opened it to find Vargas standing there in sweats, eyes red. "I cannot do this," she said without preamble. "I cannot get up in front of all those people and talk about Danny, about the killing, about everything I've lost." "Colleen." Grayson stepped aside, let her enter his room. "Talk to me. What happened?" "I had the nightmare again. The IED. Vetching Danny D. But this time, when I tried to make the shot after, I missed. And the insurgent killed the entire raid team. 20 men dead because I failed." Vargas paced his small room. "I know it was just a dream. I know I made that shot. But what if that is a sign? What if I am not supposed to do this?" "It is not a sign. It is anxiety manifesting as nightmares. Your brain is terrified, so it is creating worst-case scenarios." Grayson made her sit down. "Breathe with me. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. They breathed together until her panic subsided. Finally, she spoke again. "I wrote a different ending to my speech. Last night, after Emma fell asleep. Want to hear it?" "Always." She pulled out her phone, read from the screen. "If you take only one thing from my story, let be this. Service is not about being unbreakable. It is about breaking and choosing to heal. It is about carrying wounds that never fully close and finding meaning anyway. It is about honoring the fallen by living with purpose, not by dying with them." She looked up. "Danny died so I could live. The best way I can honor that sacrifice is not by hiding in guilt, but by being present for my daughter. By showing other veterans that trauma does not define you. By admitting that I'm still fighting battles, but I am fighting them with help now. With community. With people who understand." Grayson felt emotion tighten his chest. "That is beautiful, Alexis. You think people will understand?" "I think anyone who has served will understand completely. And those who have not served need to hear it." She stood, seemed steadier now. "Thank you. For being here. For listening. For not treating me like I am broken beyond repair. You are not broken. You are healing. There's a difference." After she left, Grayson sat alone, thinking about his own journey through trauma. The nightmares after Ramadi. The anger and isolation. The slow climb back to functionality. Vargas was further along that path than she realized. She just could not see it yet. The ceremony began at 2 o'clock. The Pentagon auditorium was filled with senior military officials, members of Congress, journalists, and other female veterans being honored. Grayson stood backstage with Emma, who wore a dress she had picked out herself, and clutched Mr. Bubbles nervously. "Is Mommy going to be okay?" Emma asked. "She's going to be amazing," Grayson assured her. "Your mom is the bravest person I know." "Braver than you?" "Much braver. I'm just a regular SEAL. Your mom is legendary." Emma smiled at that, then watched through the curtain as various speakers took the podium. Finally, it was Vargas's turn. A general she had never met introduced her, reading from her official citation. Silver Star for extraordinary heroism. Bronze Star with valor for actions under fire. Purple Heart. AT-9 confirmed enemy kills. Multiple classified operations that saved countless American lives. When Vargas walked onto the stage, the room erupted in applause. She looked small up there, vulnerable in a simple dress, her hair pulled back, that scar on her arm visible. But when she reached the podium and looked out at the crowd, something shifted in her posture. The operator emerged, calm and focused. "Thank you for that introduction," she began, her voice steady. "Though I should clarify that numbers like 89 confirmed kills sound impressive until you remember that each number represents a human life I ended. A person will never go home to their family. That is not something I take pride in, even when it was necessary." The room went quiet. This was not the usual hero speech. "I am here today because the Army wants to honor female combat veterans who served before official integration, who proved that women could handle combat roles. But standing here, I do not feel like a symbol of progress. I feel like a survivor of a brutal system that used me up and spit me out damaged." Grayson saw some of the generals shift uncomfortably. But Vargas continued, unflinching. "My spotter, Danny Ortiz, died shielding me from an IED blast in Mosul. He was 23 years old. had his whole life ahead of him. He sacrificed himself so I could live, and I have spent every day since trying to figure out how to make that sacrifice meaningful, how to build a life worthy of his death. Emma watched from the wings, completely still, absorbing every word. I have PTSD, severe, debilitating at times. I have nightmares, panic attacks, days where I cannot get out of bed because the weight of what I have done crushes me. I have an 80-year-old daughter who deserves a whole mother, and instead she gets someone who flinches at loud noises and scans every room for threats. Tears were visible on her face now, but her voice never wavered. So when you call me a hero, understand what that word means. It means I survived when better people died. It means I carry their memories like stones in my pockets, heavy and sharp. It means I wake up every morning and choose to keep going, not because I'm strong, but because I owe it to Danny and to everyone else who did not make it home. The room was absolutely silent. But here's what I want you to know. Despite everything, despite the trauma and the grief and the moral injury, I would do it all again. Because I saved lives. Because I protected my brothers and sisters in arms. Because when Americans were in danger, I stood between them and death. And that matters. She paused, looked directly at the camera filming the ceremony. If you're a young woman considering military service, know this. You are capable of anything men can do. You are strong enough, tough enough, brave enough. But also know the cost. Know that service changes you. That combat leaves scars you cannot see. That you will need help afterward, and that is okay. Asking for help is not weakness. It is wisdom. Grayson saw Booker wiping his eyes. Ramirez had his hand over his heart. The entire room seemed to be holding its breath. Danny Ortiz believed I was worth saving. He proved that by dying for me. The best way I can honor his belief is by being honest about my struggles. By showing other veterans that you can be broken and still be valuable. That you can carry trauma and still find joy. That you can be a warrior and a mother and a survivor all at once. She looked toward where Emma stood watching. My daughter is here today. She is 8 years old and too young to fully understand what I did in the war. But someday she will. And I want her to know that her mother fought for something bigger than herself. That I made hard choices in impossible situations. That I am not perfect, but I am trying. Vargas gripped the podium. To the veterans in this room who are struggling, who feel like they're drowning, who wonder if it will ever get better, I see you. I am you. And I am here to tell you that healing is possible. Not easy, not quick, but possible. You do not have to carry your burdens alone anymore. She took a breath. To everyone else, I ask this. When you thank a veteran for their service, remember that service costs more than you can imagine. Support the VA. Fund mental health programs. Hire veterans. Give them communities where they can heal. Because we do not need hero worship. We need help. Vargas stepped back from the podium. Thank you for this honor. I accept it not for myself, but for Danny Ortiz and every other fallen hero who made the ultimate sacrifice. They're the ones who deserve to be standing here today. I am just the one who survived to tell their stories. The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. People stood, military and civilian alike, tears streaming down faces throughout the room. But Vargas was not looking at them. She was looking at Emma, who broke free from Grayson's hand and ran onto the stage. Mommy, Emma crashed into her mother's arms. You were so brave. Vargas held her daughter tight, and that image, mother and child embracing while the Pentagon gave a standing ovation, became the defining photo of the ceremony. Backstage afterward, Grayson found her surrounded by other veterans, all of them sharing stories, offering support, creating instant bonds through shared trauma. Vargas looked overwhelmed but present, engaging with each person who approached her. You did it, he said when he finally reached her. You were perfect. I did not know about perfect, but I told the truth. That is all I could do. The truth is what people needed to hear. Grayson glanced at Emma, who was showing Mr. Bubbles to a female Army captain. She's proud of you. We all are. Before Vargas could respond, a commotion erupted near the exit. Security personnel moved quickly, surrounding someone who had tried to push through. Grayson's hand went to his sidearm instinctively, positioning himself between Vargas and the threat. "Stand down," a familiar voice called out. "It is okay. He is with me." Commander Keller appeared, and beside him stood a man in his 50s, weathered face, military bearing. He wore a suit, but moved like a soldier. "Alexis," Keller said, "there is someone who has been trying to reach you. Someone from your past." Vargas went pale. "Who?" The man stepped forward, and his voice broke when he spoke. "Sergeant Vargas. It is me, Captain Mike Hendricks. I commanded the raid team in Ramadi. The one you saved." Vargas stared at him, recognition dawning. "Captain Hendricks? I'm a colonel now, but that is not important." He crossed the distance between them. "I have spent 8 years trying to find the sniper who saved my team that day. I was told the operation was classified, that I would never know who pulled us out. But then I saw the announcement about this ceremony, saw your name, and I knew." His voice was thick with emotion. 12 men came home from Ramadi because of you. 12 men who have families now, careers, lives. All because you made impossible shots under pressure. I need you to know what that means. I need you to understand the ripple effect of what you did. Tears streamed down Vargas's face. "I was just doing my job, sir. You saved my son's father." Hendricks pulled out his phone, showed her a photo of a young boy, maybe 5 years old. "Michael Jr., born 2 years after Ramadi. He exists because you kept me alive. How do I ever thank you for that?" Vargas could not speak. Grayson saw her legs start to give out and moved to support her. But she steadied herself, reached out, and took Hendricks' hands. "You thank me by being a good father to him, by living fully, by making your survival count. That is all any of us can do." Hendricks pulled her into a hug, and Vargas broke, sobbing against his shoulder. 8 years of grief, guilt, and isolation pouring out in that embrace. Emma tugged on Grayson's sleeve. "Is Mommy okay?" "She is better than okay, kiddo. She is healing." The reception after the ceremony was held in a Pentagon conference room converted for the occasion. Vargas moved through the crowd in a daze, still processing the emotional weight of the last hour. Emma stayed close, holding her mother's hand, occasionally waving at the various military personnel who smiled at her. Grayson watched from the side, maintaining his protective detail while giving Vargas space to interact with the other honorees. He saw the moment she met Captain Sarah Chun, another female sniper being recognized, and watched as the two women fell into immediate conversation, the kind only people with shared experience could have. Colonel Hendricks approached with a woman and 2 children. "Alexis, I want you to meet my family. This is my wife, Jennifer, and these are my kids, Michael Jr. and Katie." The little boy, 5 years old with his father's eyes, looked up at Vargas with curiosity. "Dad says you're a superhero." Vargas knelt down to his level, and Grayson saw her smile genuinely for the first time all day. "Not a superhero, just a soldier who did her job. But your dad is the brave one. He kept his team safe that day in Ramadi. Dad talks about you sometimes," the boy said seriously. "He says an angel was watching over them." Jennifer Hendricks embraced Vargas. "Thank you. I know those words are not enough, but thank you for bringing my husband home to me." As the family moved on, Grayson noticed tears streaming down Vargas's face again. But these were different from before. These were tears of release, of understanding that her actions had meaning beyond the body count and mission reports. A general approached, 3 stars on his shoulders. "Sergeant Vargas, I am General Morrison. I commanded JSOC during your deployment years. I have been waiting years to meet the ghost of Ramadi." Vargas straightened instinctively. "Sir." "At ease." Morrison's weathered face creased into a smile. "Your record speaks for itself, but I want to tell you personally that your service made a difference at the strategic level. The targets you eliminated disrupted enemy networks in ways that saved countless lives, military and civilian alike. With respect, sir, I hope we can move past celebrating the killing and focus on the cost." Vargas's voice was respectful but firm. Morrison nodded slowly. "You are right, and your speech today made that clear. I have already contacted the VA about increasing funding for PTSD treatment programs. Your words had impact, Sergeant." After he walked away, Booker appeared at Grayson's side. "Sir, we have clearance to head back to the hotel. The crowds are thinning, and Miss Vargas looks exhausted. Agreed. Let me get her and Emma. But before he could move, Ramirez rushed over, his face urgent. Lieutenant, you need to see this. He held up his phone, showing a news article. The story went viral. Alexis's speech is everywhere. Social media is exploding with support. Grayson scanned the headlines. Female sniper's honest account of PTSD goes viral. Ghost of Ramadi reveals human cost of war. Veteran's raw speech sparks conversation about military mental health. Is this good or bad? Grayson asked. Both, Ramirez said. The support is overwhelming. Veterans sharing their own stories, advocacy groups calling for policy changes. But there are also negative reactions. Some people calling her weak for admitting to PTSD. Others saying she is anti-military. And the threats? Ramirez's expression darkened. Increased. FBI is tracking several new posts from extremist forums. Nothing concrete yet, but the volume has tripled. We need to get her out of here. Grayson moved toward Vargas, who was saying goodbye to Captain Shun. Alexis, time to go. She read something in his expression. What happened? Your speech resonated. It is all over the news. We can discuss details at the hotel. The drive back was tense. Emma fell asleep in the car, exhausted from the long day. Vargas stared out the window, watching Washington pass by. Back at the hotel, with Emma tucked into bed in the adjoining room and extra security posted outside, Grayson finally showed Vargas the response to her speech. She scrolled through social media posts, her face cycling through emotions. Relief at the supportive comments, pain at the critical ones, fear at the renewed threats. I knew this would happen, she said quietly. I knew that being honest would make me a target for people who do not understand PTSD, who think admitting to trauma makes you unfit to have served. You also inspired thousands of people. Look at these. Grayson pulled up testimonials from veterans thanking her for speaking their truth, from family members saying they finally understood what their loved ones were going through, from active duty soldiers saying they felt less alone. Vargas read through them, her eyes welling again. I did not expect this. I thought people would judge me. Some people are, but more people are grateful. You gave voice to something millions of veterans experience but cannot articulate. She set down the phone, looked at him directly. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Anything. Do you think less of me now? Knowing about the PTSD, the nightmares, the days I cannot function? Does it change how you see me? Grayson considered his words carefully. It changes how I see you, yes, but not in the way you think. I see you as braver than I realized, because you're fighting a war most people never see, and you're doing it while raising a daughter and trying to build a life. That takes more courage than anything we did in combat. I do not feel courageous. I feel broken. You could be both. I am. Every SEAL I know is. We just did not talk about it. Why not? Because we were trained to be invulnerable, to never show weakness. But that training is killing us. Suicide rates, addiction, broken families. Grayson sat beside her on the couch. You did something today that could save lives. By showing people it is okay to not be okay. That is worth more than any medal. Vargas leaned her head against his shoulder, a gesture of trust and exhaustion. Thank you for being here. For all of this. I could not have done it without you. Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you did not have to. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Vargas spoke again. Colonel Hendrik Cesson. Seeing him, hearing that he exists because of what I did in Ramadi, that changed something for me. Made the killing feel less senseless. Like maybe there was purpose in it after all. There was purpose. 12 men came home. Those men had families, built careers, raised children. The ripple effects of your actions go further than you can measure. I wish Danny could have seen it, could have known that our work mattered. I think he knew. Soldiers like Danny do not sacrifice themselves for nothing. They do it because they believe in something bigger. He believed in you, Alexis. Believed you were worth saving. Trust his judgment. She smiled through tears. He always did have good judgment, except when it came to girlfriends. His taste in women was terrible. Grayson laughed. Tell me about him. What was he like when you were not in combat? Goofy. always making terrible jokes. He did impressions of every officer in our chain of command, spot-on impressions that had us dying laughing. Vargas's voice softened with memory. He loved old movies, black and white films from the 40s and 50s. He used to quote them constantly. His favorite was Casablanca. "Here's looking at you, kid," Grayson said in his best Bogart impression. "That was terrible." Vargas laughed genuinely. "Danny would have roasted you for that. I am a SEAL, not an actor." They shared the laughter, and Grayson marveled at the transformation. This was not the terrified woman from the plane ride. This was someone beginning to integrate all the pieces of herself. Warrior and mother, survivor and hero, broken and whole. A soft knock interrupted them. Booker stuck his head in. "Sir, FBI just called. They arrested 2 individuals who were making specific threats. Both are in custody. Charges being filed." "That is good news," Grayson said. "There's more." The VA's secretary just announced a new initiative. Increased funding for veteran mental health, specifically focused on PTSD treatment and peer support programs. They are calling it the Vargas Initiative. Vargas's eyes went wide. "What?" "Your speech had impact at the highest levels, ma'am. The secretary specifically cited your words in the press conference. Said it was time to stop stigmatizing mental health treatment and start treating it as essential care." "I do not know what to say. You already said everything that needed saying." Booker smiled. Now the system is finally listening. After Booker left, Vargas sat in stunned silence. Finally, she spoke. "Danny would have loved this. He always said the military needed to take mental health seriously, that we were losing more people to suicide than to combat. Then this initiative honors his memory too," Grayson said. "You are fighting the battle he did not live to fight." The next morning, as they prepared to fly back to California, a crowd of reporters waited outside the hotel. Grayson moved to shield Vargas, but she stopped him. "It is okay. I can handle a few questions." She stepped forward, Emma beside her holding Mr. Bubbles, and faced the cameras. "Sergeant Vargas," one reporter called out, "your speech yesterday has sparked a national conversation. What do you want people to take away from it?" Vargas thought for a moment. "I want people to understand that veterans are not broken beyond repair. We are wounded, yes, but with proper support, we can heal and thrive. And I want other veterans to know they do not have to suffer in silence. Help is available, and asking for it is not weakness. Will you continue speaking publicly about your experience? If it helps people, yes. But my priority is my daughter and my own healing. I am not trying to be a spokesperson. I'm just trying to live honestly. What message do you have for women considering military service? You are capable of anything. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. But also know that service changes you. Go in with your eyes open, and make sure you have a support system for after." As they walked to the waiting car, Emma tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, you're famous now." "I guess I am, baby. Does that bother you?" Emma considered this seriously. "No, I think it is cool that my mommy helps people, even if you do not wear a cape." Vargas laughed and picked up her daughter. "No cape needed, just honesty and courage." On the flight back to California, Grayson watched Vargas sleep, Emma curled against her. The ghost of Ramadi had finally stepped into the light, and instead of being destroyed by exposure, she was thriving. His phone buzzed with a text from Keller. The ceremony was a success. Alexis did the teams proud. "When you get back, we need to discuss her instructor position. I think she's ready." Grayson smiled and typed back. "Agreed. She's ready for whatever comes next." He looked out the window at the clouds below, thinking about journeys and healing and the courage it took to face your demons publicly. Alexis had done more than survive. She had transformed her trauma into purpose. And that was the most powerful form of heroism he had ever witnessed. 2 weeks after the ceremony, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Vargas and Emma moved into permanent base housing, a small but comfortable place near the beach where Emma could hear the waves at night. The threats had diminished significantly after the FBI arrests, though security remained vigilant. Grayson knocked on their door on a Saturday morning, carrying coffee and a folder of paperwork. Vargas answered in workout clothes, hair pulled back, looking more relaxed than he had seen her in weeks. Morning, Marcus. She took the coffee gratefully. Emma is still asleep. Late night, reading her new book about dolphins. Good. This gives us time to talk. He handed her the folder. Commander Keller wants to make it official. Civilian instructor position. You would train SEAL snipers and other special operations personnel. Your choice of curriculum, your schedule, your terms. Vargas opened the folder, scanned the contract. This is generous. More than generous. You're worth it. And honestly, our guys need what you can teach them. Not just shooting mechanics, but the mental game. How to handle the psychological weight of the job. She set down the papers. I'm ready to try. My therapist thinks it will be good for me. Reconnecting with my skills in a controlled environment. Mentoring instead of just operating. There is something else. Grayson pulled out another document. We want you to develop a program specifically for female operators. Training, mentorship, real talk about the challenges they will face. Be the person you needed when you were coming up. Vargas's eyes filled with tears. That would mean everything. To help other women avoid some of the mistakes I made. To show them they do not have to hide who they are to succeed. So is that a yes? She smiled. It is a yes. When do I start? Monday, if you're ready. Grayson paused. And there's one more thing. Lieutenant Marcus Grayson formally requests to be in your first class. She looked at him in surprise. You want me to train you? I want to learn from the best. And I want to publicly acknowledge that you have things to teach me. Things I should have been open to learning from the beginning. You have come a long way from the guy who mocked me on the range, she said softly. I had a good teacher, even if I was too arrogant to recognize it at first. Emma emerged from her bedroom, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Iliotanang grisun. Are you staying for breakfast? If your mom does not mind. Grayson looked at Vargas. I do not mind. But you are cooking. Vargas grinned. I have seen you eat. You must know your way around a kitchen. An hour later, they sat around the small kitchen table eating scrambled eggs and toast. Emma chattered about school, about her new friends on base, about the dolphin watching Tripper Merez had promised to take her on. Mommy is going to teach Navy SEALs how to shoot, Emma announced proudly. She's going to be a teacher. That is right, baby. Just like you wanted to be when you grow up. I still want to be a marine biologist. But maybe I can teach about dolphins too. You can do anything you set your mind to, Grayson said. Just like your mom. After breakfast, Vargas walked Grayson to his car. They stood in the morning sunshine, comfortable in each other's presence. Thank you, she said, for everything. For believing in me when I did not believe in myself. For protecting Emma and me. For giving me a chance to rebuild my life. You did the rebuilding. I just provided some support along the way. It was more than that. You gave me hope that I could be more than my trauma. That I could integrate my past without being destroyed by it. You were always going to get there. You were one of the strongest people I know. She laughed. I spent 3 years hiding. That is not strength. It takes strength to recognize when you need to step back. And even more strength to step forward again when you are ready. Grayson met her eyes. You are ready now, Alexis. I can see it. I hope so. Because I do not want to let anyone down. You will not. Trust yourself the way Danny trusted you. The way I trust you. The way Emma trusts you. Speaking of Danny, Vargas said hesitantly, I have been thinking about visiting his grave. In San Antonio. Taking Emma with me. Telling her about the man who saved my life so she could exist. That sounds like a good idea. Would you come with us? I know it is a lot to ask, but I do not think I can do it alone yet. I would be honored. The following Saturday, they flew to San Antonio. Emma was excited about the airplane ride, oblivious to the emotional significance of the trip. They drove to the Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery in a rental car, the Texas heat oppressive after California's coastal weather. Danny's grave was in Section 22, beneath a massive oak tree. His headstone was simple. Specialist Danny Ortiz. Bidovidson, loyal friend, died serving his country. Vargas knelt beside the grave, placing a small bouquet of flowers. Emma stood beside her, suddenly quiet, sensing the solemnity of the moment. Who was he, Mommy? He was my best friend, baby. We served together in the army. He was brave and kind and funny. He loved old movies and terrible jokes, and he always made me laugh even when things were scary. Did he die in the war? Yes. He died protecting me, saving my life. Emma processed this. So I am here because of him? In a way, yes. If he had not been so brave, I might not have survived to have you. Emma stepped forward and placed her hand on the headstone. Thank you, Mr. Danny, for saving my mommy. Grayson stood back, giving him space, but close enough to provide support. He watched Vargas crying quietly, talking to her fallen friend, and marveled at her courage in facing this grief-heaten. I wish you could meet Emma, Vargas said to the grave. She is amazing, smart and funny, and so full of life. You would love her, and I think you would be proud of me. I finally stopped running, finally let people in, finally started healing. She wiped her eyes. I'm going to teach now. Pass on what you and I learned together. Make sure other operators do not make the mistakes we made. Make sure they know it is okay to ask for help. A breeze rustled the oak leaves above them, and Vargas smiled through her tears. I will take that as approval. On the drive back to the airport, Emma asked questions. About war, about sacrifice, about why people fight. Vargas answered honestly but gently, giving her daughter truth without trauma. Did you save other people too, Mommy? Like Mr. Danny saved you? I did. A lot of people. That was my job. Were you scared? All the time. But I did it anyway, because people I cared about were counting on me. That is what brave means, right? Doing things even when you are scared. Exactly right, baby. You are very wise for 8 years old. Back in California, the days took on new purpose. Monday morning, Vargas stood on the same range where Grayson had first mocked her, but now she wore an instructor's lanyard and faced a class of 12 SEALs, all of them there voluntarily, to learn from the ghost of Ramadi. Grayson sat in the front row, Booker beside him, both of them ready to learn. Good morning, Vargas began. My name is Alexis Vargas. Some of you know me as the ghost of Ramadi. Others know me as the woman Lieutenant Grayson once dismissed as a weekend warrior. She smiled at Grayson. He has gotten much better since then. Laughter rippled through the class. I am here to teach you advanced marksmanship. But more importantly, I am here to teach you how to survive the job psychologically. How to make impossible shots under pressure without losing your humanity. How to carry the weight of taking lives without letting it destroy you. She paused, looking at each face. I have 89 confirmed kills. I have PTSD. I have nightmares and panic attacks. I struggle every day with what I did in service of my country. But I'm still here, still functioning, still teaching, and I want to show you how to do the same. Over the next 4 hours, she demonstrated shooting techniques that made the experienced SEALs shake their heads in amazement. Shots at extreme range with unfamiliar weapons, moving targets in difficult conditions. Everything she had learned through years of combat. But she also talked about the psychological toll, about the importance of processing kills, not just racking them up, about recognizing signs of moral injury in yourself and your teammates, about knowing when to ask for help. During a break, Ramirez approached her. Ma'am, I just want to say thank you for being honest about the mental health stuff. A lot of guys in the team struggle, but nobody talks about it. Then we need to change that, Vargas said firmly. Suffering in silence does not make you tough. It makes you isolated. And isolation kills operators more reliably than any enemy. At the end of the day, as the class filed out, Grayson stayed behind. You were incredible, he said. Every one of those guys was hanging on your every word. It felt good. Scary but good. Like I was finally using my experience for something positive. This is just the beginning. Word is already spreading. Other bases want you to come teach. The Marine Corps is asking if you would consult on their female integration programs. You're in demand, Alexis. I am ready for it. Finally ready. As they walked toward the parking lot, Grayson saw Emma waiting with one of the other SEAL wives who had volunteered to watch her. She ran to her mother, full of energy. How was your first day of teaching, Mommy? It was wonderful, baby. I got to help people learn important things. Just like Mr. Danny would have wanted. Vargas looked at Grayson, then back at her daughter. Yes, sweet girl. Just like Danny would have wanted. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Vargas sat on her porch looking at the ocean. Grayson had become a regular presence, stopping by to check on them, but really just to be part of their life now. I have been thinking, she said as he settled into the chair beside her. About what is next. The teaching is great, but I want to do more. What did you have in mind? A foundation for families of fallen special operations personnel. Scholarship funds, mental health support, community building. Named after Danny. So his death means something beyond just my survival. That is beautiful and needed. Will you help me? I do not know anything about running a nonprofit. Grayson reached over and took her hand. I will help with whatever you need. Always. She squeezed his hand, and they sat in companionable silence, watching the waves crash against the shore. The ghost of Ramadi had found her way home, not to the past, but to a future built on honesty, service, and the courage to keep moving forward despite the scars. 6 months later, the transformation was complete. The Danny Ortiz Foundation officially launched with a ceremony attended by special operations personnel from every branch. Vargas stood at the podium, no longer trembling, no longer hiding. Emma sat in the front row between Grayson and Ramirez, beaming with pride. Today we honor my best friend and brother-in-arms, Specialist Danny Ortiz, Vargas said to the assembled crowd. Danny believed that service meant taking care of each other, not just in combat, but afterward. This foundation will provide scholarships for children of fallen operators, mental health support for surviving family members, and community programs to ensure nobody grieves alone. She looked down at the speech notes she no longer needed. But more than that, this foundation represents a promise. That Danny's sacrifice and the sacrifice of every fallen hero will continue to make a difference. That their deaths will not be in vain. That we will honor them by supporting those they left behind. The applause was thunderous. After the ceremony, family members of fallen operators approached Vargas one by one, sharing stories, expressing gratitude, finding connection in shared loss. An older woman with gray hair and kind eyes waited until the crowd thinned. Miss Vargas, my son was killed in Afghanistan in 2015. He served with Army Rangers. I just wanted to thank you for creating something that helps families like mine. What was your son's name? Vargas asked gently. Ryan Mitchell. He was 24. Loved basketball and terrible action movies and his little sister. I am so sorry for your loss. Vargas embraced the woman. Your son's service mattered. Please know that. The woman pulled back, tears streaming. People say that, but until today, I did not really believe it. Seeing what you were doing, seeing how you were turning your pain into purpose, it helps. Thank you. After she left, Grayson approached with Emma, who had been watching quietly. You okay? Better than okay. This feels right. Like I'm finally doing what I was meant to do. Not killing, but healing. Not destroying, but building. Danny would be proud, Grayson said. I think so too. Emma tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, can we go to the beach now? You promised. We can absolutely go to the beach, baby. Vargas looked at Grayson. Want to come? We are having a small celebration. Some of the team is meeting us there. Sounds perfect. The beach was crowded with families enjoying the late afternoon sun. Booker and Ramirez had already arrived, setting up a volleyball net. Other SEALs from Grayson's platoon trickled in, bringing coolers and blankets. It was informal, joyful, the kind of gathering that builds community. Emma ran straight to the water with Ramirez chasing after her, both of them laughing. Vargas stood watching, and Grayson noticed the difference in her posture. The hypervigilance was still there, probably always would be, but it was no longer consuming. She could enjoy moments without being overwhelmed by threat assessment. You have changed, he observed. In the best way. I have had good help. She looked at him. You changed too, you know. From the arrogant lieutenant who dismissed me to someone I trust with my life and my daughter's life. I had a good teacher, even if I fought the lessons at first. They walked along the beach together, far enough from the group to have privacy, but close enough to keep Emma in sight. I've been thinking about my future, Vargas said, beyond the foundation and the teaching. What are you thinking? Going back to school. Psychology degree. I want to work with veterans professionally, not just as a peer. Understand the science behind the trauma so I can help people more effectively. That is ambitious. But if anyone can do it, you can. It will take years. Emma will be in middle school by the time I finish. But I think it is worth it. Absolutely worth it. Grayson paused. There is something I wanted to talk to you about, too. She looked at him curiously. What is it? You and Emma have become important to me. More important than I expected when this all started. He chose his words carefully. I want to be part of your lives. Not just as a friend or protector, but as someone who is really present. Who is there for Emma's school events and your foundation meetings and all the ordinary moments. Vargas stopped walking, turned to face him. Marcus, what are you saying? I am saying that I care about you. Both of you. And I want to see where this could go, if you are open to it. She studied his face, searching for something. You understand what you are signing up for, right? The nightmares, the bad days, the ongoing therapy, the complicated grief. I am not a simple person to be with. I don't want simple. I want real. And you're the most real person I have ever met. A smile broke across her face. I care about you too. I have for a while now, but I did not know if it was just gratitude or something more. And now I know it is more. Much more. He reached for her hand, and she took it without hesitation. They stood there on the beach, watching Emma play in the waves, and for the first time in years, Vargas felt completely at peace. Mommy, Emma called out. Come play with us. We should go, Vargas said, before she recruits the entire SEAL team for her sandcastle project. Too late, Grayson laughed. Look, Booker was already helping Emma dig the foundation for an elaborate castle, while Ramirez gathered shells for decoration. Other SEALs had abandoned the volleyball game to join in. These elite warriors completely focused on making an 80-year-old's vision come to life. This is my family now, Vargas said softly. Not the one I was born into, but the one I chose. The one that chose me back. They walked back to join the group, and Grayson watched as Vargas settled into the sand beside Emma, laughing as Booker made terrible jokes about structural integrity. This was healing in action. This was what survival looked like after trauma. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emma stood on top of the completed sandcastle and declared it the best castle ever built. Everyone cheered, and she took elaborate bows. Speech, Ramirez called out. The princess must give a speech. Emma giggled, then put on a serious face. I want to thank everyone for helping build this castle, especially my mommy, who is the bravest person in the whole world, and Lieutenant Grayson, who protects us, and Uncle Miguel, who is teaching me about dolphins, and Senior Chief Booker, who tells funny stories. You're all my family. She paused, then added, and I want to thank Mr. Danny, who I never met, but who saved my mommy so I could be here. This castle is for him too. The adults were quiet, moved by the child's understanding and generosity of spirit. Vargas pulled Emma into a hug, tears streaming down her face, but joy radiating from her expression. As darkness fell and the group began to pack up, Grayson found himself alone with Vargas for a moment while Emma helped Ramirez rinse sand buckets. Thank you, she said, for everything, for seeing past your initial assumptions, for giving me a chance, for being patient while I healed. Thank you for saving my life. In Ramadi, and again here by showing me what real strength looks like. We save each other, she said. That is what family does. If you enjoyed the story, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part, character, or if you have had a similar situation happen to you before. 3 months later, Vargas stood at a lectern in a university classroom, teaching her first psychology course as a graduate student. The subject was trauma and resilience. Her students did not know her background at first, but by the end of the semester, she would share her story as a case study in survival and transformation. Emma thrived in school, her early understanding of sacrifice and service making her wise beyond her years. She still wanted to be a marine biologist, but now she also talked about helping veterans like her mommy did. Grayson proposed on the anniversary of the day Vargas first walked onto his range. He did it simply, no grand gestures, just the two of them on the beach where they had first acknowledged their feelings. Emma was the first person they told, and she declared herself the official wedding planner. The wedding was small, held on base with the SEAL community in attendance. Tom Hendricks gave Vargas away, a gesture that honored their connection through combat. Emma was the flower girl, taking her duties seriously. Booker served as best man, his speech bringing both laughter and tears. But the most meaningful moment came when Colonel Mike Hendricks stood to speak, his son Michael Jr. beside him. I am here today because Alexis Vargas made an impossible shot 8 years ago in Ramadi. She saved my life, which means she saved my family. My wife still has a husband. My children still have a father. And all because one extraordinary woman refused to miss. He raised his glass. To Alexis and Marcus. May your love be as unwavering as her aim and as strong as his loyalty. And may you always remember that the best heroes are the ones who choose to live fully after the battle is over. The toast was drunk. The celebration continued. And as Vargas danced with her new husband while Emma twirled nearby, she felt something she had not experienced in years. Complete joy. Unguarded happiness. The freedom to simply be. The ghost of Ramadi had found her way home, not by forgetting who she had been, but by integrating it into who she was becoming. Not by hiding from her past, but by using it to build a better future. She was a sniper, a mother, a teacher, a survivor, a wife, a friend, a hero who struggled with nightmares, and a warrior who chose peace. She was all of these things at once, and finally, that was enough. That night, after the celebration, after Emma was asleep in her new room in the house they now shared, Vargas stood on the porch with Grayson, looking at the stars. Do you ever wonder what Danny would think of all this? She asked. The foundation, the teaching us? I think he would be happy that you are living. Really living, not just surviving. She leaned against him. I used to think that moving on meant forgetting. That healing meant the past did not hurt anymore. But that is not how it works. No. Healing means carrying the past without letting it crush you. It means honoring the dead by living well. I'm living well now. Finally, she turned to face him. And I have you to thank for a lot of that. You did the hard work. I just stood beside you while you did it. Standing beside someone is everything, she said. That is what Danny did for me. What you do for me now. What I hope to do for Emma and for every veteran who needs it. They stood together in the quiet night. Two warriors who had found peace not by leaving the battlefield behind, but by transforming what they learned there into something life-giving. The ghost of Ramadi was laid to rest. Alexis Vargas had taken her place. And in the morning, there would be students to teach, a foundation to run, a daughter to raise, and a future to build together. Not perfect, never perfect, but real and honest and full of purpose. That was more than enough. That was everything.